Buenas tardes, ¿qué tal estáis? Bienvenidos a un nuevo stream. Hoy empezamos el jueves, no como todas las semanas que empezamos los martes. Vamos a ver el stream, el live stream. Ya me fastidia que nos ha coincidido. Vamos a ver el live stream primeramente de Civilization 7, donde se nos va a presentar la era de la exploración, ¿vale? Y después ya veremos cómo lo cuadramos. En principio he puesto a las 9:30. Le daremos a Age of Wonders. Recordar que ha salido el nuevo DLC, Ways of War, junto con la Tiger Update. Dos actualizaciones bastante interesantes. Y bueno, creo que ha ganado conflicto, pero lo miraremos antes de empezar. Aunque yo, vamos, la última vez que miré, vamos a jugar con juramentados conflictos. Así que nada, quedan 2 minutitos para que empiece el stream. Vamos a ver qué nos presentan los desarrolladores de Civilization. A ver, estoy cubriendo estos streams de Civilization porque sé que hay gente que le gusta, ¿eh? Hola, José Luis, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás, tío? Pero vamos, que es un juego que va a dar mucho que hablar, creo yo. Civilization 7, nos guste o no, ¿sabes? La metodología que tiene. Ya lo iremos viendo. Vale, un poquito. Perfecto. Venga, pues nada. Vamos a ello. A ponernos aquí. Pues eso, tenemos 1 minutito y medio para ver qué nos presentan. Un poquito. A ver qué tenemos de Civilization. La verdad es que ya se han presentado muchas cosas, hay muchas civilizaciones. Creo que el cupo de civilizaciones antiguas está completo. Hay bastantes líderes ya presentados y bueno, se viene un juego que va a estar bastante bien, creo yo. Espero no confundirme. Pero bueno, como todos los juegos en su salida, pues a lo mejor es un poco más complicado. Pero yo creo que le van a dar muchísimo recorrido. Y hoy estamos, pues bueno, para ver la segunda de las 3 eras que hay. La era de la exploración, a ver qué nos presentan. Yo espero que vengan algunas, por lo menos 4 o 5 civilizaciones más. Que sepamos, no sé si darán las características a algún par de líderes más. Y bueno, un poquito las mecánicas, sobre todo lo más interesante de la era de la exploración es esa expansión del mapa, ese agrandamiento del mapa en el que tendremos que... Bueno, quiero ver cómo lo hacen. Sí, con el Civilization 7 yo creo que el estilo Paradox que tiene es muy bueno. O sea, hacer un juego y rodearle de updates que cambian muchas cosas, y ir dándole contenido poco a poco, aunque a veces es demasiado, me parece una buena estrategia. Y ya vemos que hay juegos como Stellaris o con Europa Universalis 4 que bueno, tienen muchísimo recorrido ya. Así que nada, vamos a ver. Está ahí el señor Bridge. El señor Bridge.
Livestream. I am Sarah, your community manager. We are so excited. We have a lot to show you today.
Si no se oye bien, me decís.
A new civ and a new first look for a leader. We're going to be diving into some very exciting exploration age mechanics. And also, we're going to be taking a few questions in chat, so be sure to leave them in chat and we will try and tackle as many as we can. I am joined by Ed Beach, creative director, and Carl Varian Harrison, our lead designer, who just recently had a baby Varian and is taking a break from paternity leave.
Yep.
So a couple PSAs for you guys. Starting with, we are extremely excited.
No me he enterado. No me he enterado, José Luis. Eso teníamos que hablar, que como está perdido esta semana. Sé que ha salido la nueva expansión, pero no he tenido tiempo de verla. ¿Qué pasa, Seven? ¿Qué tal? No estamos en Stellaris. Haces bien. Tienes todo el permiso para cotillar todo lo que quieras.
Very exciting items, and I think even a really cool coin that you can get in the collector's edition too.
Yeah, the collector's coin has a
Toma,
reference to the 4 different types
el talegazo.
of game. So
Aquí tenéis el talegazo.
economic, militaristic, scientific or cultural, you can spin the coin around to
Esta versión, ¿cuánto costará? Costará 300 pavos, no sé, lo vimos y era la polla.
So when you order the collector's edition or
A mí me gusta el Ritual, lo que pasa es que yo no lo he comprado. Como tengo el Game Pass lo he visto por ahí.
Just a reminder that Civ 7 comes out February 11th for PC
Pero está muy bien.
and console, which is super exciting to announce. And you can play as early as February 6th if you pre-order. So definitely some exciting stuff to come.
Yo
Ed,
tengo
tell me a little bit
ediciones
why
de
you're so
coleccionista
excited for this.
chulísimas en la época que valían 80 y 90 euros, no 200.
Waiting for. This is when we really show how sort of the normal progression of an empire can turn in a different direction because of the new age of history that we're opening up and into
Sí.
as we get into the exploration age right after our age transition. So we're going to start out
Pe-
by showing the empire.
La inflación solo se refleja en el precio de los productos, pero en los sueldos nada, tío,
Exploration age is going to dawn on us, and we'll walk you through exactly how we got to this point, but really show you some of those cool exploration age details about how the gameplay changes as you uncover the other half of the map.
Yeah, it's going to be really amazing. And you're even rocking the Exploration Age t-shirt, it looks like, which is awesome. I know you've been really excited for this, and Carl too.
Yeah.
As am I. So just also a quick reminder, just remember that when we show off these details, these builds...
Me
are
gustaría
super
poder...
for us. And without further ado, here is our new first
Me gustaría también poder traduciros en tiempo real, pero es que no soy, yo no soy capaz de eso.
At colonialism by pairing Isabella with her home civ, Spain.
Bueno, cuidado con el vídeo.
Colonialism by pairing Isabella.
Mira, esos son los españoles. Tenemos un problema con el vídeo.
troubleshooting just a little bit on the first look video. Why don't we just take a moment again, Ed? You have been super excited about this Exploration Age live stream. I know we talked
Totalmente,
about it,
Seven, totalmente.
people can come to
Notas
expect,
que cuando
and this
antes
winter is
comprabas 7 cosas con 100 euros, ahora compras 3.
So I think one thing we should note to people is that I was talking just a moment ago about how you pursue the 4 different pathways through the game, either militaristic, scientific, cultural, or economic. And we have talked in the previous live streams, the antiquity stream, we showed how, for instance, the cultural pathway during antiquity is all about building world wonders.
Yeah.
So just a reminder to people that as we launch into a new age, we're going to be talking about different ways to make progress.
Sí,
in those 4
con poco que
areas.
compres, Seven,
Those are what we call our legacy
tranquilamente te vas a
paths.
los...
Unique legacy paths that are very tightly tied to the way the
No.
exploration age unfolded historically, and so deep diving into those is going to be
Si compras cosas, conservas y todo eso, pues más o menos. Pero como te metas en carne, pescado y en fruta... Mira, Isabel, pues ya está, ya tenemos al líder español. Yo dije que iban a mostrar un líder y es bueno,
Queen
bueno
Isabella
que
first
salga el de la era de la exploración, Isabel.
through the Spanish Inquisition and Reconquista.
E Inquisition, nos han puesto de inquisidores.
Expanded her empire's global reach into the new world. This means that she gets
Vas a...
along well
Te voy a
with
quemar.
anyone who
Ese es Copérnico,
doesn't
¿no?
take what is rightfully hers.
Te voy a quemar. Soy de Inquisición.
Everything. As a relentless expansionist, Isabella's discoveries and conquests abroad reaped rich benefits at home.
Totalmente.
Isabella's massive naval fleets to claim and defend territory near and far.
Me gusta muy poco el tema de las navales, ¿eh?
Capitalize on all that
No, también estaba Carlos en otro juego, Carlos V.
in the exploration age for extra gold
Pero sí,
for
Isabel está en todos sitios.
into cities. Or choose a different path all your own. But whatever you build,
¿Qué estará pensando Fernando el pobre, eh?
you believe in.
Porque también Fernando tenía su importancia dentro de la corona, ¿sabes?
So that was our first look for Isabella. We hope you enjoyed it, and be sure to check out the game guide for Isabella. after the
Madre mía,
games.
madre mía.
Can you tell us a little bit about why the team wanted Isabella to make a return to Civ 7?
So Isabella is a leader that's sort of near and dear to my heart. We just saw in that video the final wonder that was being built at the end was El Escorial, which is outside Madrid. Took a trip to Spain when my daughter was studying abroad there. Visited places like El Escorial, but also Granada, where Ferdinand and Isabella are buried, and it was just a really cool, deep look into Spanish history and all the different cultures that have come together to form Spain as it is now. We're actually, you go there, you get a sense of, oh, well, there's a lot of Roman heritage, but there's Greek heritage, Visigothic heritage.
Hombre, tienes que hablar de Toledo, Rich, tienes que hablar de Toledo. En Toledo tenemos la ciudad de las tres culturas. Isabel la Católica construyó el monasterio de San Juan de los Reyes en mitad del barrio judío para echarlos. Es que yo soy toledano.
Isabella is actually our cat that loves to sit on a civilization pillow. And so, you know, there she is, probably at home watching.
Quiero el gato para mis hijas.
Yeah, there's a little bit
Veo, José Luis, que ha llegado. Veo que ha llegado. Le llegan las noticias, allí a Chile, Si viene el gato, yo me la compro, si no, no.
Very much tied into sort of the historical period that I'm really fascinated with.
Very cool.
That's awesome. And I know a lot of our Civ players that have been with us from.
Pues es muy interesante todo lo que han hablado antes sobre Isabel, la Católica y todo eso, porque la Reconquista lo que permitió en España es que hubiera una fusión entre las culturas, sobre todo entre la cultura árabe y la cultura cristiana. Está lo mozárabe y lo mudéjar, y luego, sobre todo, que en muchas ciudades de España tenemos las tres culturas, la sinagoga, la iglesia y la mezquita, ¿vale? Hablando ya del pasado, ¿vale?
Matt Beach, another content designer, and I were both enamored
Sí, José Luis, sí.
version of Isabella. We thought that she was a ton of fun with her natural wonder gameplay. The fact that
Hombre, en Canarias hizo escala Cristóbal Colón cuando iba allí a las Indias, vamos a decir a las Indias, ¿no? Hizo escala en Canarias. Por eso que en el tema de la exploración Canarias está muy presente.
That's awesome. Well, let's see her in action. Let's go ahead and load up the game. And really quick, while we're here, let's just talk for a second about.
Bueno, ¿y qué pensáis de que el persa sea Jerjes, tío? Me le tienen puesto en el History Untold y aquí también a Jerjes, tío.
Exploration is the time where, starting in the Middle Ages, but kind of progressing forward from that, a lot of different world powers unlock the technology to, you know, sail across the oceans. And initially, that was a pretty dangerous endeavor. You'll see how that works in our game, that it's not the safest thing to do right at the beginning of the exploration age. But the key sort of game and sort of history-changing revolution was that now
Yo, a mí que me gusta la historia antigua, o Darío. Ciro Darío podía ser. Que Darío no era hijo de Ciro. Era el yerno de Ciro. Que se casó con una de sus hijas. Y Darío creo que fue el primer rey persa que llegó a ser proclamado faraón de Egipto. Que llegó a Egipto. En esa época este es muy interesante, Oriente Medio. Porque estaban los sumeros, estaban los... Evidentemente los egipcios andaban por ahí también, estaban los hititas, estaba Mesopotamia, estaba Persia. Por allí pasó luego también, eso es más antiguo, un poquito más adelante pasó Alejandro Magno.
The thing I wanted to do was make sure that we could really show in detail the turns at the very beginning of the exploration age. So I left this at standard speed rather than going to the quick speed that we often use for a lot of our streams.
Es que la historia, si no estás continuamente alimentándola, se te olvida. A mí también me pasa.
which of those players are doing well and which of those have.
Y te tiene que gustar también.
In terms of the difficulty
Sí,
setting,
está muy bien, recreada esa época, de Pharaoh.
In
the Dynasties.
Level, that's one below immortal. So we wanted the AI to keep up with what an experienced Civ 7 player is capable of, but not put it on one of those really tricky difficulty settings at the top.
Right.
And there's one AI opponent, Xerxes, who has had a really tough time in this age. We boxed him in very effectively between.
Yo no le veo muchas mejoras, José Luis. Hostia, Seven, eso es interesante, eso es interesante. Lo que pasa es que siempre he dicho una cosa sobre la historia. La historia no es como es. La historia es como te la cuentan. Y a veces hay que tener cuidado.
He shouldn't be, given the situation. Carl's showing it right now how his two cities are between this eastern edge of our empire, which is mountainous, has a few choke points, and you can see how far to the west here Ashoka has come over with his empire. So Xerxes is militarized with building walls around his cities to try to defend what he can. He has also taken one of his settlers and dropped them all the way down.
Otra afirmación bastante interesante, y la escriben los vencedores.
And created a city on this navigable river inlet into a lake. So we'll see some stuff later in our stream about what he
Están muy chulos estas formas geográficas que tiene el juego, la verdad,
Okay, Carl, so what are we looking at here? What's going on?
So towards the end of an age, as I was talking about previously with the 98% age progress that we've got right now, you do start to see what's called a crisis. And the crisis sort of accelerates the conflict that occurs at the end of the game. And the crisis that we have in this particular game is a barbarian invasion, which causes barbarian camps to spawn around the world. These are completely hostile units that will attack us, and we can see we have one spawned right here near.
Esto, José, Seven, funciona de la siguiente manera. Hay 3 eras, ¿no? En este juego. Y cuando se cambia de era en era, aparece una crisis. Y la crisis lo que hace es putearte. ¿Sabes? Ahora está acabando la crisis. Es entre las 2 eras que hay. No sé si hay una tercera crisis, porque hay 3 eras. Entonces habría una crisis entre... Más o menos. En el de Slice hay una crisis a mitad de partida y una crisis al final. Aquí habría una crisis para pasar de la era antigua a la era de la exploración y una crisis para pasar de la era de la exploración a la era moderna. Eso es más o menos. ¿Hay 3? Ah, pues no sabía. Yo pensaba que había 2, la del medio y la del final. Voy a tener que leerme la wiki otra vez. Estaba la del camp. Ah, vale.
Roman Empire to try to keep Western Rome alive. I'm offering tribute to them to try to pacify them a little bit. I have some commanders within my army that are rebelling. But somehow I managed to keep things.
Entonces, durante la crisis lo que ocurre es que tienes políticas negativas y tienes que intentar paliar las políticas como puedas.
So the AI is also affected by the crisis and has to select their own crisis policies to deal with the problem at the same time. Where the camps themselves spawn is a little bit more organic and random. So this is right smack in between 2 of our own settlements, but the others might have spawned next to somebody else's city and could be affecting them.
Esta crisis empiezan a aparecer bárbaros por todos lados.
West corner of the empire, that's no longer there, but you can tell, you know, this crisis plays out over a number of turns. I have an army that just came back from clearing out the camp up there, and basically any little nook or cranny in the middle of your empire is a place where they might slip in an encampment and you're going to have to deal with it. So there's people who like to sort of forward settle the other players and spread out. There's some downsides to that here.
We have a question coming through. Wingston GER asks, so is loyalty no longer a thing?
Loyalty, I'll just say that there is a system very similar to loyalty. It's not a system that's on all the time, but there are 3 different crises that can possibly hit a player in each of the ages, and we have a crisis that is basically...
Hay 3 crisis, lo está diciendo.
Loyalty, sort of like those dark ages in the Rise and Fall in Civ 6 where loyalty hit you really hard. That's what that crisis is about.
Yep. We do have a couple of other things to show off in game here. Right now I have one of Greece's unique civilian units selected. They get a special type of great person called a logios. And here we have Hypatia, who is going to grant additional science on a library building. So we've stationed her there, and I'll go ahead and activate her. We'll talk a little bit more about great people here in a moment, but before we do, I also want to choose our civic. We have future civic available because we've completed all of the other base civics that we have to choose from, and future civic is...
No sé con qué civilización están jugando.
Notably of which is it adds age progress. So this is a way for you to accelerate through the age a little bit faster and get to the end of that crisis if it's really bothering you. And
hay que volver a Stellaris, Seven, hay que volver. Y hace un criadero de bichos, el gran archivo.
Also an interesting tactic in a multiplayer game when you can like pull a lever to control when the game's going to end and sort of maybe
Un criadero.
that's a cool thing to be able to do in a multiplayer game as well.
Fireball 4585 asks,
Sí.
does everyone have
Sí, José, la tercera tiene que ser la crisis final de partida.
Imagine, you know, it'd be a little crazy to have these barbarian camps spawning in between players and oh no.
La crisis de la desinformación. La crisis del fango.
The world to feel like, you know, it's beset by barbarians or plague and disease or whatever, and have that be a sort of common problem that everyone faces together.
Sí,
Also makes sense in a multiplayer.
totalmente, tío. Llena de bichos la flota.
Distributed around.
Right.
So I think we've reached the end of antiquity here.
Narrative
There's a
choice.
place available, so if we select that, we get this
El mundo está
pop-up
roto.
talking about, the world is broken, and this is to deal with the barbarian crisis that we've been sort of combating over the last several turns, and the age of antiquity is now...
Puede ser que las estén refinando, las
We're
ventanas.
gonna click on this. It lets you finish your turn just in case there's a little.
Venga,
bit of
acabamos la era.
you want to take care of, and we'll show in a few seconds sort of, you know, what the empire looks like on the other side of the age transition. But keep in mind that the type of military units and their position does get preserved. They sort of get reset back to a sort of a home base into one of their towns or cities nearby, or with a commander nearby. But, you know, even those little battles you have at the end of the turn might affect, you know, in the very last turn, might affect the composition.
Sí, tienen. Esas ya las hemos visto. Lo que pasa es que no sé si las habrán cambiado las gestiones de ciudad.
The ages still, you know, carry forward and are impactful to you in the next stage.
And things, speaking of things that carry forward or don't carry forward, we have one user asking, Anthony, do crisis policies last the remainder of the game or just the length of the crisis?
So you'll see after we come through transition that your whole government resets and all the policies are going to be refreshed. The crisis policies are not active when there's not a crisis going on. So the crisis policy slots will be cleared. You won't have any of those at the beginning of the age. What is very cool is that the civilization unique policies, I think, Carl, you want to bring those up, and so we can look at which ones we have as Greece. So anyone that has the sort of feather quill type of icon here, those are our three Greek unique policies. Unique policies we typically call traditions, and traditions carry forward with you. So those are going to be the ones that we start the next stage with. I guess we have one slotted and three available.
Yeah. Yep.
So you can see it's really like a tactical choice to pick who that antiquity civ is when you think about
it. All matters, and all those choices sort of stack, and by
Right.
the end of the game, your empire is a conglomeration of all those choices you've made up until then.
I think we're ready to advance.
Let's do it.
El cambio de era en Humankind no, el cambio de era en Humankind es por fama. Acuérdate, por estrellas, ¿no? Aquí puede ser que sea algo así, ¿no? Es que no sé. No creo que sea por turnos, José Luis. Tiene que ser por investigación o por algo de eso. No, es verdad. Es una cosa que no... Sí.
There we go.
¿Qué tal, Silent? ¿Qué tal? Bien, welcome. Welcome to Civilization 7. Humankind 2.0. Mira, un vídeo, qué bueno.
And Greece flourished because it chose its partners well.
Es que tiene varios hitos. se ve. No solo científico, también tiene, es que a lo mejor va por hitos dependiendo de las cuatro disciplinas, que es ciencia, militar, economía y cultura. Va a depender de eso. Y dependiendo de cómo avances en esos cuatro disciplinas, luego al cambiar de era, tienes diferentes beneficios que puedes ir cogiendo. ¿Lo ves? Lo que ha ido ganando. Legacy Option, todo. Legados. ¿Qué legados dejas? No, y estas son las cuatro disciplinas.
We built 5 wonders. We were not able to finish that legacy path and get to 7 wonders of the ancient world. We also were not able to get to
Estoy viendo una cosa que me está llamando la atención. Lo de la ruta de la seda, Isabel ya habría ganado porque ha completado 24 de 20. Ah, bueno, no, pero esos son rankings, no son caminos de victoria, ¿no?
Both Hatshepsut and Ashoka finished that path, and then the Silk Road path, where you're collecting resources and allocating them to your settlements, I was able to finish that one. So based on that, we can go to the next tab, which is the Legacies report, and you'll see that there are bars sort of 1, 2, or 3.
Hostia, Jerjes, tío, pobrecillo, no ha hecho una mierda, ¿eh? El pobre hombre.
Basically, we're pretty much tied with Hatshepsut right now. We both got 8 of those milestones achieved. In very different areas. You know, she didn't do nearly as much with economics as we did, but she did a lot more with science. And we're neck and neck with her, and Ashoka's only a hair behind us. You know, this is the type of recap you have at the end of the age. It also shows you, to some extent, who's going to be strong.
Sí, es eso.
Going to get that initial jump start in various areas.
Y tienes un máximo, entiendo. Se supone que aquí te has pasado en una de las disciplinas.
Right, and I think, you know, something that some of our eagle-eyed players might spot is that little reference to legends too. I think is on some of those screens as well. This is something that we're going to talk about more in the future. Essentially, the team wanted a way to reward our players for playing a certain leader a lot. We've got players that like to play these leaders over and over, and there's a really cool system involved there that we'll speak more to in the future. But let's head on back into the game.
So we have moved on through the transition, and we have picked our next civilization.
Mira, para jugar con España tienes que jugar como Roma, como Grecia, o con Isabel.
So we got a double reveal here, really. Spain is who we're going to be playing as.
Ya que bien, van a jugar con España. Ya nos podían poner una traducción ahí, o por lo menos los subtítulos en inglés. Y en la Edad Moderna podemos ir a México también. El Tercio, el Conquistador.
Isabella, as we were discussing earlier, is all about sort of distant lands gameplay. While she gets advantages on any natural wonder in the game, she gets twice as much gold when she discovers a natural wonder in the distant lands, and then her naval bonuses really help her expand and explore
Militarista expansionista, sí.
Exploration age. Spain is also all about distant lands gameplay. They get tons of bonuses towards them, most notably of which is their unique civilian unit, the Conquistador, which I was talking about great people earlier. This is a great person that's unique to Spain specifically, and they're really all about distant lands gameplay and getting all kinds of cool bonuses once you sail to the New World.
La música, la verdad es que como siempre es genial, ¿eh? La estoy viendo de fondo y se oye fenómeno, ¿eh?
You can see in the middle of our screen that there are check boxes marked off to show players why Spain was an option for them. You could have played as Rome. We didn't do that. We chose Greece. But since there were a lot of Greek colonies along the Mediterranean coast of Spain,
o sea que hemos venido jugando con Isabel y con Grecia, por lo que se ve.
Recently, and so our hearts go out to those people right now. They've had a tough time in Spain there recently.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 y 11. Hay 11. 11 civilizaciones.
historically led Spain through some of their, best
Sí,
moments.
el Escorial.
Those are all, any one of those is all that you
Nuestra
need.
maravilla, ¿no? El Escorial.
Spain and choose them as your second civ in the exploration age.
Well, let's see Spain and Isabella in action.
And as we load in here, we'll let Gwen and Christy talk. I think she's got some dialogue
We gotta
here.
let her talk.
Undaunted by the ocean's expanse, Spain will follow the song of God.
Pues queda muy cutre esta pantalla. No me gusta nada, tío. Queda fatal, ¿eh? Queda como un PowerPoint mal hecho, tío. No me jodas. No me gusta.
Keep using that term. There are two terms that are really important to exploration age, and that's homelands and distant lands. Homelands is the landmass that you start on, the continent that you begin the game on, that we saw already when we were playing as Greece in the Antiquity Age. Distant lands is everywhere else. It's all other land masses that you are unable to reach in the Antiquity Age that you get to start to explore and cross oceans to find once you reach this new age.
And let's talk a little bit about map generation, because that homeland, distant land divide is very important in map generation. So the homeland landmass that's generated on this map, this is a new type of map that's brand new for Civ 7. It is called Terra Incognita, and it generates a very traditional sort of map.
Sí, o que vengan los modders a rescatarnos.
So that's going to feel very familiar to them.
Interface
What's cool
enlancement.
about the Terra Incognita map is the other half of the world, you don't know what that looks like. And it's not going to necessarily be a second continent-shaped landmass. There are variable data rolls that happen when that map is generated that determine sort of how watery that area is, and so there are possibilities from it looks just like the homelands to something that's sort of pockmarked with bays and lakes and all sorts of waterways that are fun to explore. So we'll have to see as we proceed with our gameplay as to
Isaías, ¿qué tal?
the map is going to look like.
Sí, bastantes cosas. Han presentado a Isabela. A Isabel.
Exploration age started.
Yep.
Hemos visto la transición a la edad de la exploración. Bueno, hemos empezado a verla. No sé si va a coger a los Legacy Points. Y hemos visto las características de España también. Ya va a empezar a coger los puntos de legado. La transición. Y ha hablado un poquito de las crisis.
And then the other points are based on how many milestones we ticked off on the Legacy Pass. I saw that we had a question from chat about should you go just heavy in one area or should you diversify? I think it's all a matter of sort of what your long-term strategy is.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, I'm just going to pick a bunch of science civs and go through the game that way and try to win a science victory as quickly as I can. Okay, then you've made your decision then. Here, I knew we were going to really deeply explore Exploration Age gameplay. I wanted to be set up with an economic powerhouse. That's why I made sure I finished the Silk Roads path, and then I got as far as I could on the other ones. But that's something for everyone to explore, and sort of it's just whatever fits your play style.
Right. Yeah, if you have the capacity.
No exactamente. Los legados son como lo que se te queda.
It's tricky to get all.
No, Isabel de España. Isabel la Católica, Isaías.
On the development team have done it, and they're like, I was so proud of my run last weekend or last week because I was able to get all of them.
Right.
But it's not easy to do.
So what are we working with here?
So we've got one military point to spend. So let's go
José
ahead
Luis,
and grab a military
sería más como lo que se te queda de cada civilización o de tu progreso. Es como las cosas que se te quedan en un Humankind de las diferentes civilizaciones. Pero en este caso, lo que tú dejas depende de cómo hayas avanzado en esa era. No lo que tiene de bonus al principio, como pasa en Humankind.
Legacy cards sort of become available to you to trigger an effect that not everyone else in the game is going to be access to.
And if you finish Legacy Path, you get a Golden Age card you can select.
Right, so we'll see that when we get down to the economic choices.
And this card here, I believe, is from our crisis, if I'm not mistaken. So what crisis you interact with might determine some gameplay when you enter the next age.
I see that one about wonders. We're going to pick that. Chat was asking, will settling natural wonders in distant lands help the homeland?
Yes. So let me go ahead and select these here. Don't want to get too distracted. But But yes, you do get bonuses for the wonders that you selected. We are going to move our capital here. I want to do
Sí.
that. Chalkis. So
Sí, bueno, al final elegiríamos nosotros, la llamaríamos a Elizabeth, pues Isabel.
Got a wild card, yeah.
Pero bueno, al final su nombre es Elizabeth.
So the wonders that you settle on will benefit your homelands as well. If you settle on a wonder that is, let's say, culture.
Pero a ti, José Luis, de los ingleses te gusta más Victoria. ¿Oye?
Culture progression as normal. If you are settling on a wonder that's, say, giving food or production, and you have a town, then towns can send yields back to your other cities. So you'll be able to send those yields back to the cities on your homelands, or if you upgrade it to a city, obviously it will benefit that directly.
And we've got actually a really cool dev diary that just came out. Economics feature lead Edward Zhang on our team wrote this incredible dev diary. Check it out on the Civ website, but it goes all into cities and towns in Civ 7, and it's a really great read.
And to get to the specific thing in that diary to look for that Carl was just talking about, look at the section on town specializations, because those determine how a town can take its yield and distribute it around the empire in different ways based on the specialization you choose.
Sigo pensando que el juego tiene bastante buena pinta, como Forex.
First is sort of take a deep dive into some of our cities and show how they're still look pretty Greek at the moment, but we'll get them switched over and go in with exploration age stuff in a minute. After the transition, like I said, your military units are going to be dispersed to garrison.
Claro, porque tiene un imperio.
And I had a lot of hoplites up on my border, boxing Xerxes in.
Gracias, Isaías.
Passes there, each with a hoplite guarding them. So we have a lot of.
Este fin de semana a ver si hay un rato y acabo Resident Evil.
From the hoplite into the tercio, which is the Spanish version of an infantry unit. I think if we can zoom in on Madrid, let's take a look at our brand new capital. So this is a Greek city. It was called Chalkis when it was our Greek city. We built the Oracle here. We built a Greek unique quarter. The Parthenon. You can see our Greek heritage is just sort of looming over our new Spanish city. Yeah. But we're going to start making it Spanish. The population buildings filling in around the tiles are starting to look Spanish now. We also have a bunch of buildings that have carried over from antiquity. So, for instance, if we look in the water here, we have a lighthouse and a pier there, and those are from antiquity. The antiquity buildings are not going to be as strong here in the exploration age. They lose their adjacency bonuses, but they provide their basic yield effects.
Right. All right, let's jump into choosing some civics. We want to start advancing down these new legacy paths. And like you said,
Concilio de las Indias.
From age
Son civics.
So let's talk a little bit about what we might want to do with a culture when we see that we are being recommended piety as our culture path here. And that's because it has a temple. So you want to talk a little bit about temples and how that works.
Okay, so actually I think
todas sin templos con Isabel,
legacy path screen up of the progress, and the first one we come to is culture anyways. So the first objective in terms of these legacy paths is going to be to collect relics. Now, how do you get relics? Where do they come from? They're part of our new religion system, and they are rewards that you get from spreading your religion around the world. There's a lot of changes to the way religion works compared to Civ 5 and Civ 6. I think the number one change is that every player can start a religion.
Yeah.
And there's no longer that race to, oh my God, I got to get a religion quick or I'm going to get locked out. You don't have to
Se puede
worry about
buscar Isaías en la wiki.
To start one, they're going to get a holy city. That holy
Templos.
city is protected from.
Tío, lo de la religión me parece un poco que en estos momentos deberíamos tener religión, tío. Y luego ya que se inventen otras expansiones, pero que aparezca la religión por expansión, me toca la moral, Vamos a mirarlo. Desde el 74, desde 1474 hasta el 1504.
yield. So
30
that we can
años.
get that gameplay going as fast as we can, and we'll explain it in more depth as we get there.
Isabel de Castilla.
Go over these others.
Igual ya lo ha dicho José Luis.
Let's go back to some gameplay, and then we'll talk about this as well. I want you to
Reinando fue eso, 63 años fue los años que vivió, ¿no?
play based on that.
Absolutely. So I'm
Entiendo.
going to start building a settler here because we do want to settle new.
Pero bueno, ahí como
towns
reina de
in this land,
Castilla.
so we'll build that now so that we can move it over. But you talked about getting ships out, so I'm going to go ahead and purchase. We have a large amount of gold here, so we're going to purchase a ship, a cog in Athens here.
Perdón.
We do have one for free in our
voy.
capital at the start of the age.
purchase it.
Oops, you're right. I selected it for production. We want to switch to the purchase menu, and I will buy the cog. There it is. We have one in our capital, Madrid, new capital of Madrid, but Athens is a little bit higher up here and has some great coastal access with this navigable river, so that will let us sail out from there. And I'm also going to come back down here and we'll take the cog that we get in our capital and we'll move
I
it.
just love this. this
Ah,
game that-
vale, hablas de Victoria. Yo estaba hablando de Isabel, es verdad. Que lo hemos cruzado ahí.
That opens up into, this basically lake.
63 años, hostia, qué fuerte.
It keeps going up to Sparta.
Y que empezó a reinar.
It does. And that volcano erupted so many times in antiquity. I actually gave up on trying to keep that iron mine going because it just was getting demolished over and over again by the volcano.
But the yields,
But
the yields are so good.
and the yields were just spilling into those river valleys. It was pretty fabulous.
I also want to shout out really quickly. You
Sí.
can kind of
Es
see
que
as you
es-
transition
Windows es un
into
poco
good
rollo.
exploration, your relationships with the players maintain slightly.
Mira,
right? We had
astronomía.
a couple questions from chat, I think, asking about whether you're at war with a player in the previous age. Does that still carry over, for example?
So the wars are ended. I mean, all the empires are being disrupted, and this is
El
probably
volcán de Madrid.
decades or maybe even hundreds
Ayuso, es el volcán de Madrid.
next. So there's no active war that continues over. But civ leaders live a long time. Civ leaders are hard to get to go away, and civ leaders remember. And so Carl can go and look at some of the relationships we have here, and our two friends from antiquity, Ashoka and Hatshepsut, are still very friendly with us. Maybe not quite as friendly as they were before when they were allies, but they're
Jerjes está
side of things.
hostil total, ¿eh?
Right. So we've got
Señor del
we've got
Fuego,
places to contend
la
with,
agenda.
and there are some
Recordar que Jerjes
with some other
tenía
players
dos
with different
dos
lands.
personalidades, una guerrera y otra más económica. Una era en la que estaban jugando, pues que pueden navegar por ellos, Isaías, hasta cierto punto. Son navegables, por ejemplo, este será navegable a partir de aquí, será navegable todo esto, entiendo. Y a partir de aquí no es navegable. Pues ya está bien, a ver si yo firmo 82 años.
With Xerxes, and what I wanted to do was put military units in the where the silk resource is and that mountain gap right next to the lake, and then I fortified them in place.
And it was a beautiful fortification
so
line.
I had a little Maginot line kind of going there.
Or Thermopylae.
Yes, exactly. I guess that's more period appropriate.
Yes, it is.
So, anyways, Xerxes was bottled in very nicely, but now I agree. If he comes at us from the north, we don't have any fortifications in place. And what is he doing in terms of what empire he moved forward to?
I think we have to advance the turn in order to see what his legacy choices
Claro.
are, because those occur on the first turn.
Right, and we're
So
not there
we'll
yet.
check back in with him, but
Exactamente, Isaías.
Social policies here. So as you were talking about those reset, our government will reset. We do have to pick from our traditions only. We have because we've done no civics here, we have no exploration age social policies to pick from, only our Greek traditions. So we'll go ahead and slot some of these in. I want to get Xenia in to befriend independence that we might come across. And let's go ahead and do some endeavor potential here.
And Kat
Influencia.
asks, does each civ have unique policies?
Yes, every single civ has unique traditions that they're able to unlock over the course of an age, and then those will still be present in exploration and then even in modern as you continue to progress. So you're able to layer all of those things together.
And remember the unique civic tree. Imagine the civic
A lo
tree
mejor sí,
from the previous
hay que mirarlo.
six. There's a small new branch.
Esas son cosas que todavía no sabemos. Mira, un army.
2 to 4 nodes that represents those unique civics you know, for Greece before, for Spain now. We'll be diving in and picking some of those in just a minute. But that's where those traditions get unlocked. So you have to make a decision in terms of your culture. Do you invest it in sort of your own uniqueness, or do you get some of those things that push you towards the end of the civics tree that everyone's sharing? That's a hard decision sometimes, but the really powerful stuff typically is in your unique tree, so you don't want to sleep on doing that. But we
Buenas, Mochi. Sí, sí, sí. De hecho lo comentaron, que hay que tener cuidado con las opciones estadísticas que tienes ahora con los ríos navegables, porque se te pueden colar unidades navales y te pueden bombardear, ¿eh?
Some bonuses here from what we've unlocked in antiquity, and these are carrying forward with us. So as we acquire more points, whether it's through something that happens in an age like these bonuses here, or through the legacy cards that we picked, we're able to continue to level up our leader and add more things to them as we continue through the game.
Están dentro de una casilla, José Luis, no es que tengan casilla definida, están dentro de una casilla.
So I'm going to spend some of these points here.
En general, forman parte de la geografía de la casilla, entiendo. Ah, lo vemos, a ver si hay alguno que comparta. Realmente, mira, forman parte de las casillas. Tienen varias casillas. Mira, el gobierno. Plutocracia, chaval. La plutocracia. Madre mía.
Invest in the legacy path that also rewards expansionist points, and so yeah, absolutely. You know, if your strategy is to try to push as deep into those attribute trees as possible, that works very well.
Right. All right. It looks like we're disembarking here.
Yeah, finally starting to sail out here.
Ya no. Yo cuando acabé de estudiar la EGB en aquella época seguía siendo un planeta. Ahora mis hijas que vienen y me dicen, yo digo, ¿y Plutón qué? Dice, Plutón ya no es considerado un planeta, papá. Yo, vale. Es un asteroide. Sí. Puedes utilizar el río para entrar dentro de... Para entrar dentro de la Tierra, de lo que es la Tierra, hasta donde sea navegable.
As many movement points as you have, and then when you hit any type of obstacle that is turn ending, your movement is stopped. And at the beginning of the exploration age, ocean is treated the same way. Ocean is turn ending terrain. It's also dangerous, and every turn you end in the ocean, you take some damage.
Ouch.
So,
bueno, lo que están diciendo, eso pasa mucho en juegos. Si acabas en el océano, tu último movimiento en el turno, recibes daño.
But I think in our situations here, you'll probably make it. Now, one thing that we do in map generation is we give you a little help to get across the seas.
Buenas, Cherry. Bueno, a ver, pelado, tendremos que ir viéndolo. Sí que es verdad que el juego está preparado para que te compres el base y las expansiones si quieres tenerlo todo, pero va a tener 31 civilizaciones, que no está nada mal, y luego los líderes, o sea que como juego no va a estar mal. Otra cosa es el precio que tiene, que a mí me parece que ya andamos en unos precios que tela marinera. Como Civilization va a traer bastante contenido. Lo que pasa es que es lo que te digo, que te van a vender las expansiones ya. Y también lo digo, el tema de la religión, lo sigo diciendo, me parece una cagada, pero bueno.
It does represent the same type of situation that they faced when they were first doing New World exploration, where you will find islands at some density. It'll depend on the map generation between you and the New World.
And I imagine if you
Eso tendremos que verlo y sentirlo, VII. Hay dos cosas importantes que yo debería tener en cuenta aquí. Y no es solo que las civilizaciones sean más parecidas o menos parecidas, sino eso es un punto, pero el otro importante es, ¿van a ser todos los caminos jugables? ¿O vamos a empezar a hablar de que hay ciertas combinaciones predefinidas que son más potentes que otras? Y va a haber un meta muy definido. Eso es lo importante. Lo importante es que dentro del meta puedas tener muchas opciones para ganar. Si no, el juego se vuelve aburrido, ¿eh? Porque hay opciones que son muy poderosas y otras que son una puta mierda. Y entonces muchas cosas se hacen no jugables, con lo cual no cuentan. Es lo que pienso yo. Entonces, lo más importante no solo es eso, Seven, que hagan las cosas diferentes y que de verdad sientas que cuando estás jugando una civilización, estás jugando algo diferente. También tienen que promover eso, que haya opciones, ¿sabes? Que muchas veces pasa. Sin hacer los típicos, que siempre pasará, los típicos exploits.
And that remains true for distant lands too, regardless, right?
Y no solo eso, Isaías. Combinaciones. Pasa, aparte, daros cuenta, y yo esto lo relaciono siempre mucho con Age of Wonder, que realmente si tú miras la estructura de Civilization 7 es muy parecida a lo que es Age of Wonder en sí, ¿sabes? A ver, evidentemente todos tienen su forma, pero al final está como hecho de manera modular. O sea, los tomos de Age of Wonder pueden ser muy parecidos a lo que sería las civilizaciones aquí. Sí, eso Mochi ya es un camino perdido. O sea, es como Netflix. Netflix hizo lo de cortar el compartir cuentas y ya hace unas pocas semanas lo ha hecho Disney. Y ya van a empezar a hacer todos. Empezaron soltando DLCs y han visto que la cosa les funciona en cuanto a rentabilidad y ya para adelante. Macedonia, Mongolia, Rusia. Mola mucho, tío. Bueno, Macedonia no, tendría que ser Grecia casi, ¿no? El único juego que no ha ido por ese camino ha sido Baldur's Gate.
Given adjacency to all of the gold-based buildings. Right. And that's also why in the previous age this was a great place to put a market, but now we're going to upgrade it to basically the new age building. It's still going to be in that same sort of classification of buildings, of the gold-producing buildings, but we want that bazaar because the bazaar is going to turn on those adjacency bonuses for us. So what you end up seeing is players do have a lot of choice over.
Es que Mochi, la franquicia Warhammer está hecha como un todo. Realmente, cuando hicieron el 1 no pensaron en eso, pero luego lo fueron pensando. Y la franquicia Total War Warhammer está hecha como un todo. No, para nada, José Luis. Evidentemente, eso es evidente. Pero es esa forma de intentar hacer las cosas rejugables a través de módulos. Stellaris también tiene esas cosas. Lo que pasa es que Stellaris, en vez de tomos de magia, en vez de tomos de magia, tiene tradiciones.
Science adjacency from reefs, with Gathering Storm, you got it from geothermal vents, and then mountains, and now it's from resources. So,
eso que habláis, por ejemplo, pasa con los juegos deportivos. Cada año te sacan un juego full price de FIFA, del Fórmula 1, y esa política es genera mucho dinero, cuando realmente lo que deberían hacer es sacar un juego con un motor gráfico, estirarlo 3 años y si quieres de año en año te metan una actualización de pago de 10 euros para actualizar las plantillas.
Ageless means that once that building has been placed, its effects continue to persist regardless or continue to matter regardless of the age. So things like the Civ unique buildings, the Parthenon and the Odeon, those are ageless. Once they're placed, we cannot build over those. So this Greek quarter that we have here, the Acropolis, is going to stay here throughout exploration, throughout modern. We will always have these buildings. We can never replace them. The second type is persistent, and those are on our warehouse buildings, like the granary here. Persistent is very similar to ageless in that you cannot overbuild it and its bonuses continue to matter. However, persistent buildings can continue to be built in future ages. So if we do not have a granary in a settlement, we can still make a granary in a settlement because the granary has that persistent tag.
Got it.
And talking about the legacies, the last part of this is that this matters with our specialist system. Specialists that you place onto the map are still there once you transition, but what specialists do is they boost the adjacencies of the buildings in that tile. All of those go away from the antiquity buildings, so we want to place buildings into tiles where we might already have specialists to try to boost those again, and that's going to matter for our science legacy path. So now we'll do that and jump back in here.
So let's talk about the science legacy path. We'll switch over to that. So the science legacy path is all about building super powerful tiles within your cities. And so this adjacency game that we've talked about, this overbuilding game that we've been talking about, it is the path to enlightenment. So,
Están hablando mucho de adyacencias, de cosas adyacentes, no sé. Yo pensaba que iba a ser más fácil, pero... Buena, Rosa.
Quite incredible, quite high. You know, this is normal gameplay. How am I going to, normally Civ 6
Yo, como tengo, Mochi, el Game Pass, juego cuando lo van metiendo.
Crazy situations. But this is actually pretty normal gameplay here in the Exploration Age, that you can get a few tiles in your cities up to this level.
At the end of the age.
¿Qué mañana? Hablando al final para lo de mañana, ¿qué te refieres?
Right now we're limited to one specialist per tile. We unlock
Rosa, ¿a qué te refieres de mañana?
Caps as we go through the age. We have to get our adjacency.
No he hablado, no.
So buildings from this age put in place.
Ahora cuando acabe esto hablo.
We want to stack two of them in the tile, and both of them have strong adjacencies. And then each specialist we put down on top of that helps both of those buildings get better and better adjacencies. And then you'll also see in our civics tree, there are civics
Buenas, Sonata, ¿qué tal, tío?
boost adjacency bonuses.
No cambian. Silent Snake, yo creo que no, pero bueno, las puedes cambiar, supongo, cuando quieras. Lo que sí que cambian es las que vas fundando. Si, por ejemplo, empiezas con Isabela y con Grecia, por lo que he visto por ahí ha sido Madrid y Esparta.
Okay, so the economic victory is all about bringing back those exotic goods from distant lands. So we were talking about map generation, about how the map on the other side of the world can get differently generated from the homeland. But what also can happen on the other side of the world is new resources that only occur there will show up in those lands that we never had access to in the homelands. There are changes to a whole bunch of resources as we go across a transition. Some of them become obsolete. We get some new ones like niter have appeared on the map. We can see that when we go back to the map. But the most important resources are those ones that are so exotic, they're greatly desired back at home, and we can cash them in for amazing profits when we get them back home. And those resources, we'll see some examples of them, are what we call treasure resources. And when you settle near a treasure resource and set up a settlement there that has all the naval facilities, the docks and stuff that it needs, and you get to the shipbuilding technology, which is about halfway through the technology tree, all of a sudden you start to produce treasure fleets. And treasure fleets are units that are generated automatically by the
José Luis, sí. Yo estoy de acuerdo contigo. La interface es un poco...
points towards legacy points and just gold that you can spend on whatever.
So it's possible one of our enemies like Xerxes might hop in there and try and take a treasure fleet.
Han comentado cosas interesantes que las voy escuchando. Han comentado diferencias entre edificios únicos, edificios persistentes. Están comentando temas de lo que son los recursos, que algunos estarán durante todo el juego, otros irán desapareciendo de las diferentes eras, otros solo podremos encontrar si exploramos, que podremos construir ciertas cosas si tenemos recursos.
So you might attack one you don't know. Is this thing loaded with a ton of gold or just, a smallish amount?
Está bien esta pantalla, te van explicando un poco lo que tienes que ir haciendo para hacer ciertas cosas.
Unlike previous iterations of Civ, we don't have the ability to capture units. Like a settler, if you attack a settler, it will destroy it. You can't capture that unit anymore. Treasure fleets are the only type of unit that you're actually able to capture from other players and then use yourself. It converts to your unit and you're able to take it back. They can trade hands multiple times. Piracy was ripe throughout history. It was constant in antiquity and still has some cases today. But this was sort of the golden age of piracy in multiple different places in the world. And you can go sort of be a pirate yourself and steal treasure fleets from other players and capitalize on that.
And actually, let's hold off on the military one for just a second.
Sure.
Go back to the map and let's look at our continent lens. We may want to look at it again a little bit later when we've revealed a little bit more of the map, but the continent lens is an interesting tool for us to kind of look at the geography of the world. Similar to the continent lens that we had in Civ 6, where there's a color coding of each continent, you can see where they start.
Atlántica, los continentes.
And we actually have found some of the offshore islands that are still part of our home continent of Atlantica.
No se puede. Se mueren.
The far distant continent.
Creo.
So
Creo que lo dijeron.
What you see from the continent lens is that there are different availabilities for these treasure resources I've been talking about based on sort of how far across the map you have pushed. In these islands nearby our homeland, you can encounter some treasure resources. So don't dismiss those. Those can be very useful sources of them. But it's over on the other continents where they're going to be filled with treasure resources all around, and you'll be able to find quite a few of them. So we'll go back to the continent lens later, and one of the cool things about it is it keeps track of the number of continent lenses that you found. So if you're trying to where did I see that really cool sugar resource or something that's going to give me or spices or whatever it was, that will help you remember where those are.
Right. Seems like there's a real prerogative to get over to distant lands.
And we're going to talk about the fourth legacy path, which is also important for that as well.
Yep. We have a flood happening here.
Another question from chat: can we connect defensive combat units to the treasure fleets?
So the attachment of units together, like was possible in Civ 6, sort of works through the commanders right now. And the commanders can have units included in their army. We'll see in a second that Spain has a really good advantage in doing this.
Pues no recuerdo, Isaías, lo que comentas. Puede ser, que parecía más fácil, pero tiene mucha historia el juego, porque ahora tenemos muchas cosas que diferenciar entre ciudades, pueblos, hay adyacencias también, aunque haya menos. Tienes dos tipos de distritos. No está tan simplificado como yo creía. Y sí que es verdad que es un juego que tiene mecánicas nuevas, pero no está tan simplificado como yo creía,
particularly cumbersome with our new system where ocean was causing damage to you each turn. So we've made a change there. Basically, any of these exploration age ships
hemos encontrado un nuevo continente.
And spend a whole turn there refitting, cutting down some more trees and patching up their sides of the ship where it's taken damage. Getting some new tar and pitch to fill in those holes that they might have accumulated that are leaking, and so you can actually heal as you're moving across. It's going to slow you down, but that is definitely an option as you're exploring. Is take a few turns, rest back up at one of these islands that's midway across the ocean, and then push forward and see what you can find further on.
As long as you can get back to shallow water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hola.
Oh, so we got a natural wonder here.
Yes, we do.
So
this is Theros,
natural.
which is island in the Greek Aegean, Aegean Sea, I should say. And as Isabella, this is really good for us. So this
¿A qué te refieres con una tecnología? Eso para moverte por ahí necesitas tener la astrología.
So we got 600 gold from revealing this, and this.
Sí, porque a ver, sí, no, supongo que en un futuro ya no tendrás daño en el océano, pero sí que al principio, y pasa en muchos juegos, los tiles, las casillas profundas, estas casillas sobre todo, te hacen daño si acabas en ellas. Entonces tú puedes cruzar el océano, quedarte en mitad, sufrir daño y no destruirte, y luego en el siguiente movimiento cruzar el océano entero. Lo que quiere representar es que no puedes estar infinitamente en el océano porque te morirías. ¿Entiendes? En este momento. Y parece ser que está que han hablado del cartógrafo que te permite. Es una unidad que te permite avanzar más rápido. Está Confucio, ¿no? Han encontrado Confucio. Claro, cosas como esas, es que no puedes estar infinitamente.
For now, we'll be friendly with Confucius.
Sure.
Now, notice the Confucius is a fifth leader.
Yaquifucio.
We never met Confucius at all during antiquity. He must have his capital somewhere over in the distant lands.
O sea, han encontrado Confucio en la era de exploración. Entonces había dos continentes.
Going out over the seas is to all the gameplay in this exploration age, because we sailed halfway across the ocean. We were around one of these islands, and the AI has come out and met us out there.
El bueno de Jackie Chan.
Confucius is the Ming civilization. I don't think we've talked about what exploration age civs the other leaders have chosen. So
you're right. Let's come back to that.
Joder, a lo tonto llevamos una hora ya,
So we have Xerxes up here, who was Persia, but this was their capital and it no longer has that big star.
Tanto tiempo en una misma casilla no. Los turnos. Sí, no sabías que Confucio era líder. Lo que quiere decir José Luis es que cuando tú vayas avanzando, lo que no puedes ir es saltando siempre de unidad de casillas. Cuando tienes tu movimiento, si son 2 o 3, lo que no puedes permanecer es cuando acabes varias veces en el océano, porque mueres, dependiendo del barco que tengas. Eso por lo menos pasa en Humankind, ¿vale? Que una carabela, por ejemplo, o un barco pequeño aguanta 2. Una carabela que es más grande aguanta 3, ¿sabes? Aguanta 3 golpes. Entonces eso depende. Pero tiene su lógica. Hola, Oriol. Sí. Estamos preparados ya. No nos pilla de sorpresa, la verdad, ¿eh? Qué pena.
This is all about getting settlements down, sort of like the Pax victory was in antiquity. You're still going for 12 points.
Una pena, ¿eh? La verdad, que haya acabado así, que no haya juegos como Baldur's Gate, como digo siempre.
Only if that settlement is in the distant lands.
Yeah.
And then you can multiply the points from it if it's a conquered settlement or if it's a settlement over in the distant lands that's following your religion.
So that makes religion matter for 2 of these legacy paths.
Right. Obviously, it matters for the culture one, where we're accumulating the relics, but now it's important here. And I also think Distant Lands gameplay is very important for 2 of the paths.
Bueno, el 6 está frito, ¿eh? De DLCs. Tiene los 2 DLCs grandes. A ver, no es como Paradox, ni mucho menos. Que el Europa Universalis tendrá... ¿Cuántos DLCs tiene el Europa Universalis? Este tiene los 2 tochos y luego tiene pequeños DLCs con civilizaciones. ¿Quién se perfila a GOTY este año? Pues el Final Fantasy, ¿no? El Rebirth. Podría ser. El Metamorph. El Astrobot. ¿No? Y he visto por ahí, pero no creo. El Zelda no creo. No es a ver, es un buen juego, pero no es un gran juego. Va a estar entre esos 3, yo creo, ¿eh? Astrobot, Metamorph y el Rebirth. Y no sé si hay alguno por ahí también que pueda hacerle sombra. Ya veremos. Mira, Jerjes en mongol.
Just for having the settlement.
Right, just always 1 point at a time for
And
Mongolia.
the distinction between controlled versus conquered, just being controlled, you founded or settled.
Or conquered.
Right.
Both of those.
So if we look at the map
see.
here, he's got 3 settlements down there, but you'll see he has no progress towards this legacy path right now, because those were the ones he started the age with. Now, if he builds his cavalry army and starts rolling over the map,
¿Y Stellaris cuántos tendrá? Ya. Pues 8 por 3, 24 a lo mejor. Y Age of Wonder va por el... Este sería el quinto DLC. El que ha salido esta semana.
So we have a temple available. So I think we should just go ahead and purchase this. We still have tons of gold. We just got 600 gold from discovering that natural wonder. So we can immediately put that into purchasing a temple. Let's find a good spot for it.
Bueno, a comprar un templo.
It likes mountains, so this would be decent.
Remember that every single building gets adjacencies from wonders. And I built the Hanging Gardens here next to Athens Acropolis. We have the Colossus off the coast. We have Angkor Wat, I think,
up here.
Yeah.
So we've got 3 spots that are 6s. So we do want to take a look at what we'll be replacing and what other adjacencies we have around us. There's a resource here and here, so that's
no tiene los jardines colgantes y el Angkor Wat.
Science and production spot.
Right.
I think we put it right here. You have two
of the Hanging Gardens.
You have two wonders here.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a pretty good place.
No tiene nada que ver, José Luis, comparado con Paradox.
Yeah. So we've purchased a temple here. Let's zoom in. We can see the temple right
Y
here.
con Total War. Lo que pasa es que lo que te digo, Total War lo tienes que pensar como Warhammer, como un todo desde el 1 hasta el 3.
So here we do have a whole bunch of religions available. We don't see any custom ones, but I believe those are coming.
Those are on the
Mira,
way.
mira. Tylen, mira.
Sure. We'll go ahead and do Catholicism. That seems pretty.
Vamos a crear la religión en... Bueno, hombre, la era de la exploración no, me parece muy tarde.
Our beliefs. So we get an enhancer belief and a founder belief, and it looks like we can unlock additional belief slots through gameplay as we continue to progress.
And players shouldn't get too locked into exactly how this is set.
Pero los 3 juegos, ¿no?
Right now, I think before the game releases, the exact order and where you unlock these beliefs.
Pues esto te he dicho, 6 por 8, he dicho 3 por 8, 24.
Where an enhancer
Sí, por ahí.
belief is a way that your religion spreads in a unique, stronger fashion than the other religions in the game. So I think when I played
Eso quería decir, Oriol, que puedes elegir España si eliges a Isabel como líder o juegas Roma o Grecia como civilización, independientemente del líder. Entonces él cumplía 2 condiciones de las 3, pero con que cumplieras una podrías elegir España. Por eso salía Roma. Si tú juegas Roma como civilización en la era antigua, puedes jugar con España. Si tú juegas Grecia, puedes jugar también España. Y si tú juegas con Isabel, también puedes jugar España. Eso es lo que quería decir. Salían esas 3. Son las 3 opciones que te permiten elegir en la edad de la exploración a Isabel. Y tienes que cumplir una de las 3. En este caso se cumplían 2, porque tenías a Isabel y Grecia. Pero solo tienes que cumplir una. Eso puede dar combinaciones locas, porque que un líder te permita jugar una civilización, puedes empezar siendo, yo que sé, Kemer con Isabel y elegir España. Sí, eso es. Pero lo que lo desvirtuó un poco, porque nos hablaron de que iba a ser un poco en plan que no te ibas a salir mucho del camino, ¿vale? Que iba a ser un poco experiencia más cerca de Civilization, evidentemente, que de Humankind. Pero ya vemos que aquí puede haber combinaciones locas porque el líder es free. Entonces tú puedes decir, si yo me elijo a Isabel y con Isabel puedo jugar España, puedo empezar jugando con Isabel y con una civilización asiática y acabar en España.
And there we go. We now have our holy city established here in Athens.
And you can see that there are 2
Atenas.
Catholic icons here. Everyone's going to say, wow, that looks like a weird bug. Why did they double that up on the UI? That shouldn't be like that. But it's actually important. So if you remember Civ 6's system, there was a whole system of religious pressure, and it counted citizen by citizen how many followers each religion had.
Sí, tenía más sentido eso, pero eso lo explicaron. ¿Por qué querían líder? Porque querían que no perder toda la esencia. Eso lo dicen en el primer Dev Diary. Totalmente, se va de turismo mucho, sí. A China. Sí, creas tu avatar, pero realmente a tu líder. Lo que pasa es que ese no tenía características en sí. Entonces aquí lo que quieren es conservar ese sabor de Civilization con los líderes.
When you have both of those lined up, both the rural and the urban population in a settlement following that religion. It's sort of even easier to convert a settlement for the very first time. So whenever
Yo es lo que siempre digo, José Luis Isaías. Un juego lo dominas cuando juegas. Mira, mira, mira. El barco. La hostia que le ha dado. ¿Lo ves? Muy poquita. Otra hostia.
Flocking to your banner just with one conversion charge.
Very cool.
So, Carl, you found something very interesting here.
I did. It looks like I've discovered some treasure resources. So here we have sugar, which creates treasure fleets when connected to a coastal settlement, and cocoa,
chocolate,
which does the same thing. So here we have, looks like 4. This is dyes, which is happiness. That is not a treasure resource. So 4 treasure resources right here. So if we settle
like
something
right
up here,
those two sugars,
like right here, we can start setting those up. What would it take other than the settlement for me to get those connected? It talks about connecting them.
So the basic requirement is
yo lo que estoy viendo es que los cambios locos aparecen por los líderes, que era algo que tenía la mosca detrás de la oreja, en que parecía que no iban a permitir los cambios locos, pero el líder te da pie a que lo hagas, básicamente.
And so that's a nice, you get to sort of make a tactical decision. Where do I want my very, susceptible to enemy capture type of
Cartografía.
spawned? Maybe I want it in some protected harbor. Maybe I want it as close to my homeland as I possibly can. So we'll make a decision when we get that settlement up and going as to.
Ya van avanzando en el océano y les va dando. Aparte en el océano van más despacio.
However, it still is locked to the same movement rules as our naval unit, so it can only move one tile at a time in deep ocean.
It's going to take damage.
And it will take damage at the end of the turn, so we have to be cautious moving across here.
And now you have 2 great places to go. Do you
I've got
go
2.
To there, or do you go up
maybe
for the
right
treasure
here
resources?
and maybe right here. That's a very tough call. I think maybe
podría ir arriba, ¿eh? Yo creo que mejor sitio es este, ¿eh? No me seas perrete. Tienes tintes, tienes azúcar, tienes chocolate. No me jodas. Yo cuando veo estas zonas en los mapas de Civilization se me ponen los ojos con el símbolo del dólar, tío. Fíjate todo lo que tiene aquí, ¿eh? Para pillar, ¿eh?
Normally you'll find that when you get over the distant lands, it's a very lucky map generation to get that right there in the islands, not that far off our coast. But we do have to remember.
Mira, tenemos cartografía 2 también, para mejorarla más.
Okay.
And we might want to pop up the tech tree and just show people how deep shipbuilding is in here. So it's in the 3rd tier. We're going to have to finish astronomy, finish machinery, get heraldry, get feudalism, ignore all the temptations from the masteries along the way, and then we can finally get to shipbuilding. It's going to take us a while to get there. So we've got time to get a settler up and going and get that treasure-generating island town up and going.
Sure. I see castles and heraldry and feudalism on here as well. So it seems like right now we're sort of in sort of a medieval period.
Está un poco desvirtuado, ¿eh? Hablamos de la edad de la exploración, pero está metido un poco en la edad feudal, ¿eh? No sé. Feudalismo. A ver, es verdad que al final, con 3 eras.
Far earlier, you had Scandinavians that were discovering North America long before Christopher Columbus ever sailed. So even though it's perhaps a bit easier,
Sí,
it's not
Isaías, sí.
necessarily just your
I love the fact
standard
you're calling this
European.
out. We've met Confucius. Confucius is leading the Ming Empire. Ming was an absolute rock solid. We had to have them in exploration, Civ, because of Zheng He, the admiral from the Ming, who actually created treasure fleets hundreds of years before
El templo en
the
Madrid.
Spanish did, and sailed in, I think, starting in the 1420s.
Only
started
remnants,
sending fleets
remnants.
out across the Indian Ocean. The treasure fleets that the Ming dynasty had are amazing, and they're like 4 or 5 times the size of any Western, galleon or anything like that. Just enormous vessels. And what's cool about the game is, just like with a lot of our units, we have culturally unique variants to them. So you'll see the treasure fleet unit looks very different in the game if you're playing as the Ming Empire than if you're playing as Spain.
Very cool.
And so just make sure you know what those look like, because when you're playing in multiplayer and you're trying to capture treasure fleets from anybody else,
Yeah.
Right.
want
So
to find them.
it looks like we have a cool narrative moment.
Very cool
coming
narrative
up.
moment. Yeah, I definitely want to talk about this. So what I just did is I selected to build a
Buenas,
temple
Vargas, ¿qué
in
tal estás, tío?
Madrid, so we can get some religion up and going there. In doing so, I selected to overbuild the altar, which is the religious building from antiquity. I felt like that was a pretty appropriate replacement. And we get a narrative event for selecting.
Molaría tener outposts para temas de petróleo, que hubiera petróleo en mitad del mar, esas plantas petrolíferas. Estaría interesante, molaría. Pues aquí estamos, Roberto, viendo un poco Civilization.
Interesting choices here. So if we construct a reliquary to keep the relic, we get a relic. And that goes towards our culture victory without us having to do anything religious to get it. Or
Melt the relic
melt the relic into coins to fund construction.
into coins to fund construction.
And this is a permanent bonus on
Amazingly good.
every specialist for the rest of the
I've
age.
never even seen this.
It's so strong. But both of these are really, really good for different victories. So this is really good for the culture victory. This, as we were talking about, you need specialists and high yields in order to get the science victory. This would go a long way for that. What do you think? What should we pick here? Do we want culture or science?
I didn't get this when I played through here.
Yeah,
so
it's
I
pretty
haven't
cool.
had to make this decision.
That's because you didn't select to overbuild your
No,
altar with the
I
temple.
overbuilt
But
somewhere.
even if you do that, it's not. I don't think this is a
No,
guaranteed thing.
Right.
It changes each
the
time.
way our narrative system works is stories get loaded into the game, sort of a random generation process. So you'll encounter them in some playthroughs, you won't encounter them in others. There are sort of hidden triggers to, it was an exact requirement. You had to overbuild a temple to get this story, so you may not hit those. So we've loaded this game with several thousand stories like this.
There's so many. There's so many.
The narrative team has been working endless hours to get all these stories in. Lots of them are unique. We'll get to conquistadors later in the game.
They have some
Conquistadors
stories.
have unique stories just related to them. But here's one that any player could get if they happen to overbuild an altar in the exploration age. If it happened to be rolled into the collection of stories that's available in this particular playthrough.
So we want to go ahead
It's a tough choice.
It is a tough choice. You want to go
Bueno, van a ir a cultura al final, ¿eh?
Yeah.
What the
let's do
relic
that for now.
looks like?
I think that's going to be more immediate.
So we'll pick that, and relics do have yields, so we'll go ahead and take a look at that relic we just got. We got one somewhere else. I think maybe did we convert something? I don't know. We got it.
Tenía ahí una bolsa de medicina que no está funcionando.
Oh, is it from a civic?
Yeah.
Okay, we may have gotten it from a civic.
There's several
Oh,
of the
from
sort of-
piety.
Right.
It's from piety. So when you unlock the piety civic, you get.
No, la verdad es que la esta está bien, la
Two culture and two happiness, and that applies only just like with codices in antiquity. This applies only when they're slotted. So right now they're not giving us anything, but we can put these into the palace, and then the temple has one slot, and so we are able to start getting those yields once we equip them. So we'll go ahead and put each of these into a great work slot here.
Right.
A perfect amount of relics for a perfect amount of slots.
Indeed. And once we have the temple up in Madrid, we'll have another slot available too. And there are ways to increase the number of slots that you get.
Right.
So speaking of relics and religion, we did have a question from chat from Unknown Duck Robot who asks, do you keep your pantheon in the following ages?
Unfortunately, you do not. I don't know that we're talking about how religion carries forward beyond
I think
this.
we can say that there are echoes of religion in the modern age.
There you go.
So
That's a good way of putting it.
yes.
Modern age live stream to come.
Yes.
But for your pantheon from antiquity, those bonuses go away as they are replaced by the organized religions that are being really emphasized and spread during this period of history. Not that they necessarily religions weren't founded earlier than this, but this is when they were really spread globally to across either your own civilization or other civilizations in particular, brought to distant lands.
So
Sí,
let's
van bastante chetados, sí.
discovering more of this distant land if we can.
Yeah, we'll get
Son
this
pueblo
settled
feliz,
down
¿eh?
And see what that does. We want to get this.
Yeah, I want to unlock those yields there.
And we've got
And
a
I
few
want to-
people.
El este está a punto de palmarla, ¿eh?
He's here.
There's
El
the
barco.
eastern edge
Está a puntito de
of the-
palmarla,
I'm being
¿eh?
real risky with this guy though. He's taken a lot of damage sailing across.
Do you
I didn't
wanna-
stop to heal.
Do you want to
Ahí tiene ya tierra, tiene que tenerla ahí. Pero no sé si va a llegar, ¿eh?
We'll sail straight here because this is still 2 tiles, and if I go here, there might be some shallow water that way. Let's sail down.
We've got somebody asking how
No llega, ¿eh?
lands work with different map types.
Okay.
Está a punto de
Yeah,
palmarla.
that's really fun.
El barco se ha metido en un callejón sin salida.
There's a lot of details there. I'm not going to try to go through all of them, but depending upon which
Si es que le da felicidad todo, tío.
Distant lands is going to be sort of a carbon copy of your homeland area, or it's going to be entirely different. So in this particular case, the Terra Incognita map was selected, which gives a nice large continent to begin with, and the distant lands are highly variable and very different than your homeland. We have other types where it's called Continents Plus, where it'll look like this, and you know that the distant land area is also going to look similar. We have an archipelago map type, where your homeland is a bunch of islands, sort of think of Indonesia in real world, and the distant lands is also a bunch of islands. So everyone's playing on sort of the same type of playing field, but it's very, very different than what we're seeing here in this
I
game.
love that map type.
There's
And
also like a shuffle
Aquí tiene un
map,
pueblo al lado de la
where
Antártida,
you're not
macho.
sure what your homeland's going to be, and so basically we'll
Corintos.
tell you by the map type what you're going to start with.
Al final se va abajo, ¿eh?
Guaranteed that the distant lands will look very similar, and some ones they will.
No nos han hecho caso,
Now,
¿eh?
these islands that we're exploring in the middle, those don't appear in every map type as well. So, for instance, we have Continents Plus, which is what we're playing right now. Those always do have offshore islands in them, but there's also a Continents map where there's just a wide.
Le va a faltar un turno para llegar, chavales. La va a palmar. Y luego es una putada cuando llegas, cruzas el mar, te encuentras con otra civilización por la que no puedes pasar porque no te deja entrar en su frontera y la palmas, tío.
And speaking of islands too, we have somebody asking how island cities.
Queremos ver cómo se hunde el barco.
A little bit more
Ahí
of a
va.
tight space to settle
Volcán.
there.
It depends. So the islands that we're looking at here are very tight. We do not have a lot of land to put down your districts, but some of them will have a lot
El
of
símbolo del
resources.
hierro han dejado el
This
mismo que
island,
tenían
for example,
en
on top of resources, but if these
en Civilization,
resources weren't here,
nosotros
there would be a good
Civilization.
number of tiles for us to build on.
And it might be a good excuse for a town, right? Instead of a city, and kind of focus that in.
And then it also, that's, people are like, oh, I don't necessarily like coastal cities and those coastal buildings aren't that useful. Out on the islands, all those coastal buildings like the wharfs and the other things that we're going to be unlocking in this age become incredibly valuable. So you'll want to have, remember that an urban district
¡Toledo!
always on land, urban districts can be on water.
¡Viva Toledo!
Basically any tile that's
¡Viva!
considered urban.
Hemos fundado Toledo en el agua, ahí. Pueblo pesquero.
So you have to figure out a way to engineer it so that everything connects back. But I love the buildings going out on water because they let you do things like extend your city across a navigable river to the other side, across a lake. We have this really cool example in our capital city of the navigable river inlet here. If we had settled like right on the end of that peninsula.
Totalmente, casus belli. Luego la IA no lo entiende así, ¿eh?
I've done up here with
three
Athens and I've
resources
built
next to it.
across.
Yeah, so that's how we have North Athens across the river there.
Right, right.
I don't know if we've talked about this a lot, but we have bridges as buildings in the game, and bridges can go down on navigable rivers.
Expand the port.
They're a great way to get your city across to the other side of the navigable river.
So we have like another narrative event here with this.
We do. So this is a
Tiene mucha
discovery
pasta.
that
Expand
so we can unemployed sailors cluster around the docks of the port. There are too few ships, too little work, too much time. So I can choose to expand the port by spending 2 turns of gold, which is 220 gold.
Sí.
To get a boost
Yo soy de
to
Toledo,
civic,
Oriol.
which could be really good.
Aquí no pescamos merluzas, aquí pescamos merluzos. No merluzas.
To get culture on gaining
Cost you
200 gold.
400 gold to get for a civic boost, basically.
Just 200. 240.
But you're losing the 200.
Oh, but I'm losing this. I see what you're saying.
The opportunity
Yeah, the
cost.
opportunity cost. So what? I think we'll go for the civic boost. Honestly, we've got tons of gold available.
Gotta
It's
spend that
expensive, but
Well, I actually have plans for that gold. So
and what did we get boosted? We got.
I think we have to advance the turn to get the boost.
No, I think the notification.
Oh, it's right here. You're right. Civics have been boosted. It didn't actually
Oh, it
tell us. Let's look at the tree here. So it was not this one.
It was economics. Look at this, like 2 turns. Is that?
No, we were already there.
I think it might
Inspiration.
happen the next
I think it's
turn.
inspiration
Yeah,
because
okay.
it got.
So, anyways,
Reduced
let's
there.
look at our unique Spanish civics while we had that up and we're
Sure.
talking civics. So we're talking about how every civ has
Estas son las civis españolas. A ver.
tree.
La Concilio de Indias, Nuevo Mundo y la Armada.
How many nodes they should have and how
El Nuevo Mundo
involved they
Rico.
should be.
Sure. Well, that was an ongoing process. Trial and error, figuring out what worked, what didn't work, what looked
La Casa de la
good,
Contratación.
felt good. The goal here is to have an interesting
Para las colonias.
tree of approximately
Y el
3 to 4
Escorial.
civics.
Ahí está.
Mastery is optional for every single civilization. And this
Para
is where
tener
a lot of
esto,
the
el
unique
Escorial,
content
tienes
unlocks.
que
Not your
masterizarlo.
military unit. Those still come from the tech tree because those are typically replacements for other units. But this is where you get your traditions, your unique buildings or tile improvements.
Sí.
You can get access to your wonder.
Y le permitió expandirlo como puerto
Typically a faster way.
o
And
podía
we had a
coger
question before
200
about
de oro
unit bonuses.
directamente.
I think if you look under Armada, can see some bonuses. The flotilla promotion lets you pack more units into the Armada, and then there's a mastery here that lets land units moving across to establish settlements over across the ocean. So
Right.
we're gonna get
Es bueno eso, ¿eh? Más 2 de movimiento cuando está embarcada. Jo.
Every single civilization. So
Mueve-
many of them have this format where it's sort
mueve
of
deprisa en el agua, ¿eh?
into 2 others. Some of them are 3 or 4 in a straight line. Some of them are much taller, and so it branches out into a
not
big
all of them have
stack.
masteries
Not
like
all
this
of them
one.
have masteries. The more culture a civ has, typically the more masteries or civics it has to unlock.
A mí estos de los árboles de civics,
The order of how you unlock things here is
demasiado
definitely part of
demasiado pan para tan poca chicha. Se me queda un poco tan poco jamón. Me queda un poco, yo que sé, solo 3 civis, yo que sé, los podías integrar de alguna manera en el árbol general. Yo que sé, que cuelguen de algo. No sé.
And you might look at the initial description of what's this civ's ability, and it's a quick little one-line thing. For Spain, for instance, you want to bring up the Spanish ability so people can see what that looks like?
Sorry.
Yeah, and I think we might even want to
We
jump
can
ahead a little
see
bit.
that-
too.
We can, yeah. I'm going to do one more thing before we do here. So
That the siglo de oro is the
El siglo de oro.
they get,
En español, ¿eh?
cheaper conversions from towns to cities, especially if they're trying to create cities in the distant lands to sort of establish that Spanish colonial empire. But that's just a really small bit
yes.
of the full abilities that Spain
Lo que no
unlocks.
está es el Escorial. ¿Qué hace el Escorial?
There's a lot more to each one of these.
Yeah.
Sí.
So the last thing that I want to do here is we have Toledo. With
La IA es algo que es recurrente, no nos gusta aquí en general.
And that's just our random city naming system. But
Le
what
queda
I'm
un
gonna do
buen
here
tocho
is
de mapa
go
por
into search
descubrir,
menu.
Fijaros, todo lo que tiene en el minimapa. Es que estaba tapado por él, pero se ve en el minimapa que le queda, vamos,
Oh, we did.
que ahora
So
mismo
it's
está
right here.
tapado.
I already did the growth event. So that allowed us
Pero
to
le queda un buen
expand
tocho,
out,
al
to pick up the
oeste.
Fishing boats on the Pearls, we were able to assign that to our capital. That gave us access to this, so we can start expanding into Thera on the next turn. The more growth events you have immediately, the more you would be able to jump out and grab tiles or grab resources. We could pick up this fish immediately, but we can also buy things here right away. So we cannot buy settler. You see there's no settler on this list, and that's because you have to have 5 population. Buildings do add up.
Buenas, Brogas.
Buy some of these buildings.
Hombre, a mí sí me genera cierto hype, pero...
Rather than having to sail them all the way across, we can
Pero
launch
bueno.
them from this city.
Also, you can choose these buildings to expand towards the
Towards
volcano
there,
here and pick up those yields even faster. We
Sí que es
can
verdad que el ritmo que llevan los estos no es del todo...
rapidly. So
No
there's
sé.
lots of cool strategies you can take with
Absolutely.
the,
And
Simplemente
then if we go
juegan,
into that
comentan un
second
poco
city,
y...
we see some of the effects of this building on this town too.
Pero ¿cómo está forrando Toledo ya con tantas cosas? ¿Cómo lo hace? Las está comprando, ¿no?
because we have the belief where we get to
Right. It also acquired the,
immediately
yep.
get our religion in any distant land settlement that we have.
No estaba atento.
started to establish ourselves.
Me imaginaba que estaba
Go
comprándolas.
ahead and jump forward, and then we'll see what it looks
So we're
like
going
much
to
later.
jump, I think it's close to 50 turns later, and you will see the Spanish colonial empire up in their full glory. We are
Van a
retrieving
ir
treasure
turnos
very
más adelante, a ver
soon.
cómo lo ven.
So the townspeople of our capital in Madrid are going to be cheering when they see those treasure fleets come home.
Y 90 de felicidad tenía, ¿eh? Brogans.
Have had a little bit of trouble with
90 de felicidad, que lo ha dicho antes Silent.
You'll see that we settled all the way over on the distant lands.
Vamos a ver cómo avanza la
Very
partida.
next to the capital city of his empire that we were just starting to see the edge of there. And so we're not nearly as happy with Confucius. I mean, we had an initial friendly greeting there. Carl spent some influence to get a friendly greeting with them, but
And how the years have soured our
yes,
relationship.
exactly.
Also, as we're kind of loading in, I just want to take a minute to shout out some very cool
Sí.
things coming to Civ 7.
Los gráficos de
Talk
Civil
about
6, ¿eh?
cross-save.
La polémica
That's
que
new, right?
levantan.
It's extremely exciting. We also have cross-play, which is new, and really want to shout out too that Civ 7 is coming day and date.
Hay mucha gente que no juega por eso, que se van al 5. Me gusta, como se dice ahora, el setup que tienen con la escultura esta de fondo y todo lo que tiene ahí en la estanterita está muy bien, ¿eh? Está...
On a PlayStation, on an Xbox, on the
Joder, pero casi nada,
I
¿eh?
feel like they're part of our family now. We don't
Joder.
get any of those. When Civ 7 announced,
La has dado bien, ¿eh? 10K horas, entiendo, 10.000 horas, ¿no? Vamos a mirar una cosa.
Home base for any of our Civ players.
Yeah.
Let you play with other people who might be on different platforms.
Ahora está jugando en tiempo seguido más de un año, 416 días jugando.
That's sort of the first big announcement for that.
Ah,
That's awesome. All right, so let's hop back in here.
Joder,
Before we
pues.
jump ahead a little bit. What
Yeah,
has changed?
we're about turn 50 here. We've
Claro,
explored
sí,
a lot
sí,
more, so
sí.
if we just sort of pan our
yo
map,
en mi época del World of Warcraft tendría eso, 500 días ponía de tiempo jugado.
yields here, 12 cultures,
Mira
6
Barcelona también.
We've settled
¿Dónde la ha
our
puesto? Valladolid.
location, and we've
Zaragoza.
another one over here. This is sort of a beautiful bay that you've discovered.
Yeah, so I sailed up to this bay. I felt like I was Captain John Smith discovering the Chesapeake back in the day because I was just seeing treasure resources left and right. There's chocolate on one side of
No
the bay,
esperes milagros.
sugar on the other
Los
side
milagros,
of it.
como se dice aquí
There's
Isaías en
a
España,
downward
a Lourdes.
reaction into an even deeper bay,
Right here.
where there's even more chocolate and sugar.
Which there's another thing to
Sí,
consider here.
es un...
because
Y
just
aparte
like
es un
in
soft
Civ
cap,
6,
¿eh?
city
No es un
centers
hard cap, es un
count
soft
as
cap.
canals.
Lo puedes
So
pasar
if we were to have settled
bajo
right
ciertas
here,
penalizaciones.
this would go both directions, and you'd be able to sail
Lo que pasa es que
I
cuentan
may have
tanto
put
ciudades
the
como
city
pueblos, ¿eh?
further, and I may have settled a city right to the northwest of that
Pueden
next chocolate
cambiar
down the
algunas
bay.
pantallas que quedan un poco cutres, pero en general no va a cambiar, ¿eh?
His capital here.
I see.
And-
Over here.
Yeah, and so there's if you put a right,
Right
there.
there, I
Yes.
see.
So I could
That's
actually
beautiful,
sail
Ed.
right up to her capital.
You could change that. Well, this is too close, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's some interesting things you could do here.
So this is the Terra Incognita map. We're starting to see what that looks like. I said that there is a random setting where it's lots of bays and inlets and little lakes. We happen to roll that one here.
Yeah.
Look at all
It's
these lakes.
making
Lots
for
of lakes. If we-
Really interesting gameplay.
If we were to ever have a lake civilization, this would be a great map for them.
I also want to point out, I see a couple of independent powers. We've had a few questions come in about independent powers, how those kind of work through the ages.
And so it's super important that you go through that because we unlocked another belief in these 50 turns. We got our reliquary belief. We want to go up to our religion screen,
Qué mierda,
scroll
macho.
down and see that we have the reliquary belief icons. So reliquary beliefs are a special choice that you make that gives your
Sí, la ha subido un poco más, ¿eh?
way of creating
Antes tenía 90.
paths.
Ha duplicado. Bueno, duplicado no.
Because we were pushing out our
Pero mi tío.
lands and because
Buenas, Zan, ¿qué tal,
there
tío?
are 4 major powers, major civilizations in the homelands, only 2 in the distant lands. We were going to be out in the distant lands, and there's just more space for independent powers.
Sí, Oriol, pero va a haber algunos que se van a ir limando. Quitarán del medio algunos que ya no funcionarán en la última era. Entonces,
Allow befriending independent powers to go more rapidly.
habrá recursos que funcionarán en eras, en teoría, es lo que he oído. Y otros que funcionarán toda la partida.
From antiquity to exploration as well, right?
The ones that were there on the map before are no longer there. They're
Right.
brand new independent powers, brand new abilities that you get from befriending them and becoming suzerain of them. And the names are all changed to be sort of exploration age appropriate. It's a whole fresh set.
Mira, Ahsoka, 400 de felicidad, Ahsoka.
Yeah, this is the Spain unique quarter. We've placed both of our unique buildings into this tile here, and it creates the plaza, which is their unique quarter. So it's really pretty here. You can even let's rotate around a little bit. We'll see the front of those buildings.
It's beautiful.
It's picking up 13 yields now, but we just need to drop some specialists on it, and it could be one of the tiles that we push towards.
Sí, Isaías, pero yo no lo veo tan sobrio, ¿eh? Más sobrio es el 5, ¿eh?
Naval battle, the naval combat.
Yes. So we've done a lot of work to try to make naval gameplay much more important in Civilization 7, and a big part of that is the exploration.
Los gremios.
We've already talked about the economic legacy path and how you're able to capture other people's treasure fleets and capture their victory points.
Están jugando en fácil, Siren. Están jugando en fácil. Luego es una cosa que no me gusta. Al final, luego las dificultades se basan en meterte penalizaciones para que vayas con el culo apretado todo el rato. Como en el ARA, tío. O sea, difícil. Venga, te voy a pegar un handicap en las cosas que te vas a cagar. Ya a ver si lo pasas. Por ejemplo, eso en el Age of Wonders no pasa. En el Age of Wonders no te meten handicaps. Tú puedes variar ese handicap y puedes decir quiero empezar más difícil o más fácil, con condiciones más difíciles o más fáciles, pero la dificultad tiene que ver con la IA, no con la capacidad que tienes tú. Yo creo que eso debería ser siempre igual. En el tema de dificultad, que luego tú ya te quieres meter más mierdas, pues que lo dejen. Incluso puedes hacer un nivel de dificultad que sea gradual, por ejemplo, que sea en el sentido de que puedes tener graduada la dificultad de 1 a 10 o de 1 a 100, ¿vale? Y dependiendo de los modificadores que le metas en la partida, vaya variando en esa escala. Pero, ahora venga, dificultad, pues voy a ponerme en príncipe o en lo que sea, deidad, lo que sea. Bueno, es que realmente la dificultad es que te he metido unos debuffos que te cagas, que para mover la felicidad te cagas por la espalda abajo. Exactamente. Es que deberías así que modificaras. Oye, mira, que me quiero poner una partida difícil en plan... Venga, que la felicidad sea muy difícil de conseguir. O... Porque al final eso te ralentiza. O sea, pierde la esencia del juego un poco, no sé. Te hace seguir caminos para paliar esas cosas que no serían los que harías tú. Que voy a jugar con un modificador de felicidad de menos 20. Venga, hala, pum. O que cada vez que gano población, en vez de tener un menos 1 de felicidad, tengo un menos 3. Sí.
So this is Miguel Legazpi, who was the conquistador who conquered the Philippines for Spain late towards the end of the 16th century. And
Hacen falta buenas inteligencias artificiales.
basically get an instant army
Yep.
packed on up, ready to go after a distant lands. Well, actually,
Muy lamentable, muy lamentable. Yo el otro día jugué en dificultad alta y dije, es una puta mierda. Porque al final me elegí a Carlomagno. Carlomagno dependía mucho de las edades de oro, pero claro, si me meten unas penalizaciones en las condiciones de vida que te cagas, nunca consigo edades de oro, con lo cual las bonificaciones que tiene Carlomagno me las como con patatas.
Buddhism there. So we have one missionary who's defending our faith in Barcelona. Remember, for those non-sufficient orbis points, distant land settlements like Barcelona are going to score us double points if we can keep them converted to our religion, so it's very important for us to do that. There's also a missionary to the northwest of the main fleet that's headed up to our new city-state
Eso
ally,
es.
Damascus, because if
Brogans, es que es eso. A mí me pasó lo mismo y dije, absurdo, tío, absurdo. Ningún tipo de reto, tío.
I do have a quick question from Dale.
Veremos.
Are the home continent resources counted as
Al final acabamos jugando al Zelda otra vez.
lands?
That's a really good question. It's not true currently.
Y alguno me llama y me dice, ¿otra vez Zelda? ¿Otra vez Zelda?
Very interesting. So we had another
Al
narrative
CV5.
event, which was-
Yo jugaría al 4, que es el último que jugué bien. Volvería al 4. Pero bueno, el 5...
Science, we have finished shipbuilding, so that makes a bunch of changes. First of all, we've been going right across those deep water
Bufos.
tiles. If people notice, we're no longer stopping on each one.
Pero es que en este juego, en este tipo de juegos que compites por esas cosas es absurdo.
Is it allows us to start generating treasure fleets. But treasure fleets take a little bit of time. They don't pop out immediately. But we can go to our resource screen and we can check to see the progress of treasure fleet generation in our settlements. We will see that our two distant land settlements are either 1 turn away from a treasure fleet or 5 turns away. And one of them is going to be worth 4 treasure fleet points, and the other one's going to be worth 3. So we will see a treasure fleet very soon.
Por ejemplo, el que me gusta, el tema de dificultad bastante,
TFT asks, are treasure
es
fleets
el Old World. El Old World me gusta mucho, la dificultad. Es verdad que cuando hemos puesto dificultad alta, la IA ha empezado con más ciudades, pero eso lo puedes tocar y lo puedes quitar. Puedes subir la dificultad y evitar que la IA empiece con 20 ciudades. Y me gusta porque se ve cómo la IA juega mejor, te hace focus de otra manera a las unidades, va por las unidades bien, a por las que tiene que ir, sabe, ¿eh? Pues a mí es un juego que me gusta mucho, el Old World, porque sí que es verdad que luego se hace un poco loco si juegas con eventos, con todos los eventos. Puedes poner que solo jugar con eventos más estándar que con eventos locos, pero es que te puede salir un evento como a mí, cuando jugué con Dido, que la mataron de repente y dije yo, vale, pues muy bien. ¿Y qué hago? Empiezo a gobernar con una niña, que era mi hija, que no tenía que no tenía nada, o sea, que quiere decir que no tenía ni bufos ni nada, y claro, ya te ralentizas, pero bueno, eso es parte del juego. Si quieres jugar en ese tipo de cosas, lo puedes quitar. También fue un evento que yo les apreté y me arriesgué y me apuñalaron. Quiero hacerla, Oriol, sí quiero hacerla. Ahora que he vuelto a hacer un poquito más series porque estaba un poco en plan a otras cosas, sí me gustaría volver al Old World. Evidentemente, si hay un DLC vamos a volver, pero sí que me gustaría hacer alguna serie. Es un juego que se juega muy bien, las cosas como son, se juega genial. Y me ha dado muy buenos ratos. Aquí tuvimos una partida del Old World que fue guerra por todos lados y acabé ganando y fue espectacular. Fue muy chula. Por ambiciones acabé ganando, pero me pegaron palos por todos lados.
Well, I mean, it's not from, like, we don't have anything prerequisite promotion to unlock it. This is from our unique Civics as Spain, we get this flotilla promotion, which
comes off the Armada Civic.
Exactly. So that gives us 2 additional unit slots for 6 total. And land units can then pack into this commander, which is really cool.
Right.
Mira, estos son los comandantes de agua, ¿eh? ¿No?
We have shelling, +3 combat strength for naval units.
O no es un comandante de agua.
Spotter, +1
Sí.
range attack distance. So that is really, really
As
powerful.
long as our naval units are within command.
Within the command, this is all within the command radius. And then we have gunfire support.
Sí.
Naval
Sí, Isaías, hay juegos que sí que pasa eso.
splash ability. Enemy units in the
Que pasas de frío a caliente y no hay y no hay entre medias un templado.
This works
O te quemas o te
everywhere.
hielas.
It works on naval units. It works on land units. Anytime you make an attack with a naval unit with this promotion, you are dealing 50% of that damage to all enemy units in adjacent tiles. It's very good.
Carl's favorite promotion.
It's, I designed it, so it should be.
Confucius better watch
De
out.
todas maneras, y yo del Age of Wonder hay cosillas que puedes hacer para complicarte más o menos, y hay juegos, el Old World también tiene sus... Lo que pasa es que ¿cuál es el problema? Que no tenemos tiempo para testear ese tipo de cosas.
Attacking you with this, it's just going to decimate you. You have to target it, you have to defend yourself, and the best way to do
Es complicado, hacer la que piensa a largo plazo.
So the commendations are really interesting because these you get from completing a tree. So we've gotten all the way to the bottom. You don't have to have every single promotion in that tree.
Just have to reach that bottom
You have to reach the
level.
bottom. So once you do that, then you get a commendation point that you're able to spend on one of the commendations. These are not tied one-to-one with each tree that they're beneath.
La que vamos a tener también generales dentro del agua, ¿eh?
We've unlocked here is duty. Gain the heroic assault ability. Deal direct damage to a unit in the command radius that has the same domain as the commander. So in this particular case, it's a fleet commander, so it can only attack naval units, and this is direct damage. This is not combat strength. There's no calculation that happens here. It just does an attack that just damages that unit. It's very, very strong.
And then it goes on cooldown for a while, I think.
I want to say it's every turn, but it could be there could be a cooldown, yeah.
And how are
We've played around with that a few times.
Yeah.
How are new commanders earned? How do you get commanders?
So you can build or purchase commanders. The cost of each commander increases for based on the number of copies of that you already have. So for each army commander you have, army commanders become more
Al final esto de los comandantes, y pensarlo bien, yo es que lo siento, estoy muy pesado con Age of Wonder o con héroes, viene a ser eso. Es un ejército que tú apilas, es verdad que puedes tener más o menos unidades dependiendo del S, pero estás apilando unidades y luego las despliegas en el campo de batalla. Es verdad que el campo de batalla no es como el Age of Wonder que te metes dentro de él, pero aquí lo despliegas delante. Entonces es muy parecido, ¿eh? Aparte puede mejorarse. Buenas, Agus. Bueno, hay cosas que me gustan y otras cosas que no me gustan. Me gusta cómo están planteando el tema de las civilizaciones. No me gusta que haya combinaciones locas por el tema de que puedas elegir una civilización dependiendo del líder que hayas elegido. No me gustan los DLCs, no me gusta el precio. Me gusta el sistema de combate, me gusta. Me gusta el tema de las ciudades y los pueblos también. El desarrollo de la ciudad se me está haciendo un poco bola. Se me hace un poco bola, no sé. No, habrá que verlo, ¿eh? Tengo que tocarlo. Pero el desarrollo de la ciudad se me hace un poco bola, ¿eh?
That's our path to 2 more relics. We'll have to send a missionary now.
We may get to this. We may not.
Me gustaría ver también el sistema de guerra que tienen, para ver si es por apoyo popular, que está muy bien. Y el sistema diplomático, porque yo siempre lo digo, una de las cosas que más me ha gustado de Humankind, pero que no han sabido ajustarlo, es que tienen la idea de que diplomáticamente te puedan obligar a ir a la guerra, a una guerra que tú no quieres ir porque te viene mal, y la pierdas. Directamente, aunque tengas más unidades que él, aunque seas más fuerte que él, la pierdas porque tienes que avanzar mucho, tienes que entrar en ciertos sitios que no puedes, que esté muy costoso. Entonces la acabas perdiendo simplemente porque pierdes el apoyo popular. Porque si a ti te obligan a hacer una guerra, el problema que hay es que si no vas a la guerra, vas perdiendo el apoyo popular poco a poco. Si la pierdes, te puede obligar, incluso el que te ha declarado la guerra diplomáticamente, o te ha obligado de manera diplomática, a perder una región. Es muy interesante.
Territorial waters, basically, of a homeland city, and then we can do the unlimited cargo.
There's an action that you can spend.
Hopefully we can make it back.
Yeah, it's only, well,
Okay.
it's only one more turn to
I
get
think
there.
it's pretty safe, yeah.
Yeah. Confucius isn't going to get the jump on the first one.
He might
Tampoco
on
han
the
dicho
second.
mucho. Ha estado hablando un poco de los generales, que va a haber generales y comandantes en el agua. No sé si has visto que han pasado. Han cargado una partida que tenía más avanzada y ahí está más avanzada la era de la exploración.
If you are hostile, anything higher than that, you cannot. It has to be a surprise war.
I may have denounced him a few times.
You may have denounced him a few times to set this up. It's worth noting that the leader that we revealed earlier, Machiavelli, does not have to obey that rule. He can always form a war no matter what. And the difference there is that it causes war support. So if you declare a surprise war, they get additional war support, which will then hurt us. It hurts yields, it hurts combat strength. Formal war does not do that, so we'll just go ahead and declare
That's why
that.
Carl was checking his influence balance.
Te va a dar con el báculo, te va a dar. Vamos, con el báculo, con el cetro.
Independent power, try to get more relics. I think that's a little more important. But we could, if we get more, add to more support. Now, let's go ahead and do some attacking.
Now, what's the strategy? Let's select the commander first and look at some of the special attacks that he's got.
So he has, just like the army commander, they have a group attack that they can do. So coordinate naval attack, order all naval units within the command radius to attack.
Lo de los comandantes está muy bien. Es el tema del bélico, el tema este de las batallas y todo eso está muy bien. A mí me parece una mejora.
And have everything bombard this ship here, which should. I'm not sure that Splash works with this, but
Yeah,
we're about to test it and find out.
If you want to.
For science, right here, folks. Did I do it right? No, I
I
didn't.
think you lost your selection there.
Try the other one.
Venga.
What am I doing wrong, Ed?
Well, this is the caveat that Sarah
It's
says.
still
that
in
we-
progress.
Still work in progress.
build.
All right, we'll do it individually. Let's do that.
Nada, que no tira el bombardeo.
Let's learn something.
Oh, I wonder what is going on. I cannot move my unit here.
Bueno, se le ha bloqueado el juego, ¿eh? No puede mover los barcos ahora.
Looks like Confucius may have the upper hand on us after all.
No kidding. Definitely.
Does progressing the turn?
We'll do that in a
We'll
second.
check that in a second. Oh. Hit the M key. Okay, you just went ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think maybe trying to click on the ship and then right click.
Se han pirado los barcos, han dicho sí, sí.
Yep.
He sailed away.
There.
then.
Now
He's
we're moving.
Now he's running.
All right, so we're gonna move here, and we do have. This is our army commander. I need our fleet commander. We do have our increased attack range with this, so we are going to. But these are probably melee at this point. So. We're gonna chase out.
El becario.
While we do this,
Y dice, si ya no cobraba, ¿qué le vas a robar dinero? Si el becario no cobra.
Not a hard limit, no. But because they get more expensive with each one you build, they do become prohibitively expensive.
And,
Right.
and remember, to give them most of their power comes from the promotions. The promotions is always earned from combat experience. They can both pick up, like if you're fighting around a town and you have 2 or 3 commanders there, they will each get a share of them.
Van a tener religión, ¿eh? Qué bien. Me he quedado más a gusto hoy. No sé cómo funcionará, pero tenemos ahí un misionero que la va a liar.
right.
So we did just get our 2 new relics from
Excellent.
converting that, so those were immediately slotted in. Okay.
That's nice. So if they'll automatically slot if you have the slot available.
Yeah.
Yes.
They are generated at that city state, and then the game looks for basically the closest temple
Right.
and just automatically puts them in there.
So we made our treasure fleet home, and now all it has to be is within our borders here on the coast.
It's right next to the Colossus.
And
it's very appropriate.
We are going to unload cargo, scores treasure fleet points, awards gold, and removes the unit from the game. Let's go ahead and let's check this real quick. We'll see how many points we get.
Economic.
Nowhere on the path.
Here we go. This is what I wanted.
But notice
so
that
Ashoka already has scored some treasure fleet points. So he's already progressing here. Probably on the other side of the continent. He's sailing around the other way.
remember he was on
Madre mía, ciencia cero, Están buenos,
is east of us and found some islands or maybe the other side of the Ming Empire or the empire that Amina has over on that continent.
Yeah, and is definitely already scoring points ahead of us. So we need to start going here. So we got plus 3 points there. So now we're tied with him. And I believe we get some gold here as well. 200 gold. 300 gold?
300.
It's a little small. I'm far away from the screen here.
Should be a multiple of 3 though because there was 3.
¿Ya perdió el barco o qué?
Gold because 3 points.
Minor Will 1 from chat, by the way, asks, can you capture other civs treasure fleets if you're not at war?
Tía, el volcán, macho.
There is not. That'd be a cool like.
Las lía pardas,
For some civ that was very good at piracy, but we don't have anything like that in the game right now.
Oh, an eruption.
Like I said, that volcano just makes keeping that mine operational just nigh on to impossible.
How are you looking at with battle here, Carl?
I'm going to try. They're still kind of far away. Yeah, we don't have quite enough movement.
Another question from
Almost need to
chat.
pack back up where we had the extra movement.
Yeah, but we don't have the ability to have movement when we unpack,
yeah.
so it would just delay
There's
us.
different commander abilities.
Let's do this. We're gonna come in here and we're gonna purchase another
carriage.
one.
Yeah.
Can you have enough?
Economic attribute point or gold in all settlements. That seems very good. We're gonna do that.
Dan's Gaming, by the way, asks, can you capture coastal cities with fleets?
You sure that other one was a settlement limit increase though too?
It was an economic point,
Oh, okay.
which is good.
That's good.
But
yeah,
we'll just go ahead and get the
could be things
the
like a
automatic
settlement
gold.
point.
Sorry,
And-
what was the question?
Can you capture coastal cities with fleets is the question.
You can.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Depending. There are.
Ahora vengo, un momentito, dejo con el stream, que hay un problema en casa.
Yeah.
Ven por un momentito.
If you remember the Civ 7 capture rules, towns you're capturing the center hex, but a city can start building walls in more than just the center hex.
Right.
And every walled district has to be captured for the city to flip. So, for instance, if we took one of our cities, like the one we've been looking at, like Madrid, and we built walls into the interior of that, we would increase the number of tiles that need to be captured in order to take it. And those inland tiles, the fleets wouldn't be able to get to.
But those navigable rivers,
Yes,
maybe they could
yes.
inch up there.
Yeah, so there's lots of interesting interplay there for sure.
So we're not going to get our splash damage here. Actually, this is Xerxes. For the sake of showing off splash damage, let's
Declare war on Xerxes.
declare war on Xerxes.
He was pretty angry with you too, so you could get the formal war there.
I did, yeah. So now we are going to do this and attack this unit. No.
Did you try right-clicking?
Right-clicking removes it.
Well, but you're doing it from the commander. You just
Yeah.
try it with the
Oh, there.
Eric.
You know what? I wonder if declaring war breaks it. I just ruined it for us.
So try
All right, I'll move forward again.
left-clicking
Oh,
the unit,
Yeah.
and then
No, it's all frozen. Build in progress.
all right, build is in progress, and for what we can't get to in this live stream, we will certainly get to.
Nah,
in the
que
future.
tira a mi hija a la ducha, la tenía que colocar.
You're not already following this.
Que mi mujer no podía.
Some very cool gameplay insights. So definitely check out those. They're very interesting, and
go.
we'll be able to.
We did enable
oh,
damage.
so look at that! It did happen.
Oye, yo pensaba que esto iba a ser menos de 2 horas, y llevamos ya 2 horas.
Got a little bit of a battle waging now.
Son las 9 ahora mismo. Y he puesto el otro a las 9:30.
Enable units
Pensando que íbamos a acabar ahora y que va a tener media horita para descansar un momento.
and structure to it.
Para hacerme un café.
All right, I think Sarah's
think-
gonna
I think
pull
that
the plug
about-
on Carl's
Yep,
naval
that's
That
battle.
fine.
about wraps us up, though I'm very glad that we were able to show our Civ fans here a little taste of naval battle. And we'll be going into more battle too.
No
We
me
have a lot
digas.
more Dev Diaries planned, which is very exciting. Again, we have the Dev Diary that just came out on
¿Tendremos ese bug en el S?
So please check it out. It's a great read. We also have new game guides coming out for Isabella and for Spain, so check the
Está tan maquillada la tía que no se la enfoca la cámara bien, ¿eh?
Follow the Civ socials. They're awesome. We hope you guys did get the Twitch drop.
No van a acabar ahora, ¿eh? Mira, voy a tener un ratito para descansar.
And if you didn't watch us live, there will be more opportunities to redeem that in the future, so definitely keep an eye out for all of our streams. And just another reminder, Civ 7 is coming out
Cosas del
soon,
directo,
February
Silent, tío.
11th, 2025. It's coming with crossplay, cross save, coming day and date.
Está muy guay eso de crossplay y cross save, ¿eh?
And we are so excited to be able to
Yeah.
say that to you today. Keep an eye out for our upcoming live streams. We're going to be covering the modern age as well coming up. So more news on that soon. But thank you, Ed. Thank you, Carl, for
Our
being
pleasure.
here today.
Absolutely.
All right.
Ed Beach. Venga, bye bye. Mira, nos dejan al gato. Bueno, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo lo habéis visto? Bien. No me da... No sé. A ver, jugarlo jugaremos. Va a ser un gran juego con el paso del tiempo, seguramente. Pero hay cosas que se me hacen un poquito bola. Pero bueno, seguramente, pues bueno, pues será un buen juego. Seguramente lo jugaremos. Y dará tardes de gloria. A ver, hora y media tenemos el Age of Wonder, ¿vale? Yo voy a cerrar esto y luego lo vuelvo a abrir con Age of Wonder. No voy a dejar el Twitch media hora puesto. Así que iremos al stream de Age of Wonder. Para los que os quedéis en Age of Wonder os voy diciendo una cosilla, ¿vale? Para los que vengáis, ya lo voy diciendo para que lo tengáis. A ver, voy a quitar esto. Sí. Y ganas y yo también, es lo mismo. Entonces, para los que os quedáis por aquí, os voy a poner esto, ¿vale? Ha ganado conflicto, pero con bastante mayoría. Así que vamos a jugar conflicto, ¿vale? Armonía y rectitud. A tomar vientos. No hay ni armonía ni rectitud. Además que ha ganado claramente conflicto, así que jugaremos conflicto, ¿vale? Va a haber guerra a tope. Y nada más, muchas gracias a los que habéis estado acompañándome y a los que habéis estado comentando en este stream, stream de los devs de Civilization. Muchas gracias, José Luis, muchas gracias, Silent, Isaías, Verogans, muchas gracias, Oriol. Ya sabéis que siempre me gusta nombraros a todos. A quien está por aquí, Mochi, muchísimas gracias. Zan, muchísimas gracias por estar por aquí. A ver, que no se me olvide nadie. Vargas, muchísimas gracias. Voy mezclando. La gente de Twitch. Tebe, muchísimas gracias. Rosamari, muchísimas gracias por estar por aquí. No quiero que se me olvide nadie. Me falta el bostero que no ha estado. A ver, que no se me olvide nadie. Siempre os reviso a todos. Pues somos poquitos. Está bien. Siempre Siren 7, no se me olvida nadie. Si se me olvida alguien, lo siento mucho. Agustín, que estaba por aquí, que ha dicho hola, que como se siente, muchas gracias por estar por aquí. Y nada. A ver. Que os leo última vez. Sí, yo tengo mis dudas también. Nadie quiere paz, Isaías. Pues nada. Media horita más o menos, ¿vale? Son y 4, pues media horita y pasamos al Age of Wonder 4, ¿vale? Vamos a estar... voy a intentar por lo menos estar 3 horitas más, ¿vale? Que tenemos que probar el DLC, que no lo hemos probado. Y yo tengo unas ganas... O sea, me ha jorobado que pongan el dev hoy, porque tenía más ganas de jugarlo que de verlo. Pero bueno, hemos visto cosas interesantes en el stream. Así que nada, chicos, los que os vayáis ya y no vayáis a venir al Age of Wonder, que os vaya todo muy bien, nos vemos en el próximo. Y los que os vayáis a quedar en el Age of Wonder después de media hora, nos vemos un ratito. Hasta ahora.